Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. How are we doing? It is time. It's time for a new trial. I've been keeping this one a little bit close to the vest. Defense made a motion for a mistrial. Prosecutor was up to some fuckery. Potentially damaging evidence, no basis for it. The judge specifically said, do not ask that question. Do not use that as evidence. She walked right down the path and asked the question. It may be over on Tuesday morning. Batman Bruce Wayne bitch snitch. Gerald Brooks, your constitution does not apply to me because I'm a sovereign citizen, a traveler on the land. I'm the Moorian Empire or whatever, bitch. Because they're so fucking absurd. If you want to be a sovereign citizen, just do yourself a favor first. Go to YouTube here and just get every sovereign citizen that's ever been before. Find me one that won. God dang, you're right. Don't go down this. It's not the path. Don't have time for stupidity. Some clever dick on the internet didn't find the great loophole in all of the world's law. Bitch snitch. God dang, you're right. God dang, you're right. Traveler on the land. God dang, you're right. Moorish Empire. Traveler on the land. Bitch snitch. Moorish Empire. God dang, you're right. Traveler on the land. Bitch snitch. Late evening U.S. people. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, everybody, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whoever you're doing it with. I am just about ready to get this on. It's a thing. Vince McMahon has been accused of some horrific, horrible stuff. I mean, it ain't good. We're gonna deep dive into this complaint. It's a 67-page complaint. We're not gonna get through it. We don't have to get through a lot of it. I don't even know where to begin with this. It's a thing. And straight out of the gate, I will just say monetization is out, is going to be completely out. Absolutely no question about it. Our O.J. Simpson trial got demonetized last week, and they just confirmed it this morning that it's going to stay demonetized because Johnny Cochran dropped 12 or 13 N-bombs and 3 references to the failed Austrian painter that caused a world war. So this is way worse. So any support, it's not a grift stream. It's not it's not an F it Friday griftathon here, but any support you give me is going to be appreciated because ain't no ads going out on this after we shut it down. Yeah. Sure. We'll see how it goes. But see, we already have been there, done that. Thank you, been there, done that. Deeply appreciate the support. This is this will help greatly because I ain't gonna be making ad revenue off this stream. Been there, done that says is 2 girls and a guy named Vince a sequel? 2 girls and 1 guy named Vince is not going to be the sequel here because as we'll talk about, I mean, everybody's talking about the threesome that's involved in this equation. As I've said a few times now, that threesome they referred to in all the news stories, that's not even close to being the worst stuff that he's been accused of in this complaint. But the reason that's not going to be a sequel to the infamous Two Girls One Cup is because this was two guys and a girl. This was Vince, another dude, and a girl, apparently. Begin with the news he just resigned. Have we had blowback already? Say it ain't so. Make me do on the fly research before we even get going. This was not news a moment ago. Okay, I'm not seeing any resignation news. So we see the company has made its first statement. Lance Storm weighs in. Huh. I'm not seeing that news, but yeah. Let's see what the parent company, just read through this here real quickly. Here, drop the bombshell here today. Mr. McMahon does not control TKO, nor does he oversee the day-to-day operations of WWE. While this matter predates our TKO executive team's tenure, we take Ms. Grant's horrific allegations very seriously and address the matter internally. Man reached out to Wrestling Inc. The following statement: This lawsuit. Okay, let's get McMahon's thing out of the way here first. This lawsuit is replete with lies, obscene, made-up instances that never occurred, and a vindictive distortion of the truth. He will defend himself vigorously. Yeah, well, let's just hope defending himself vigorously is the only thing he did, because everything else he's alleged to have done vigorously in the complaint, it ain't pretty. TKO claims they're addressing the matter internally. Right. So I personally haven't seen any indication that he's resigned. But if he does, we'll certainly bring that there. But Stingy, thank you so much for the support. That is deeply, deeply appreciated. Oh, and John Robert. Sweet. Thank you so much, John Robert, bringing the big heat here. He gets the big foghorn for that. John Robert here. Hope this helps. We're almost to Doggo Cam already. We need some dogs to liven the mood here. Thank you so much. Hope this it helps more than you can imagine, because once we don't even get through the introduction, and you're gonna see why. Yeah, monetization is not going to be a thing for this, but hey, that's what happens when you start talking truths, when you start reading things that are part of the public record. YouTube doesn't like it. It's a thing, whatever. But we deal with it. So, all right, with that out of the way, again, as the super chats come in, assuming they come in, we'll read them as they come in. We'll address them. That's the surefire way to make sure you get your comments and questions read and addressed. Otherwise, I have to do my best. And when I'm reading things, especially as rapid as we're probably going to be reading these, it's a little more difficult to pay attention to chat and catch the things. But that's what we're going to do. We got 155 of you here right now, which is great considering everybody else is live right now. But we don't care about anybody else. Right here, you 156 now are the greatest people on the internet, because you've chosen to be right here, right now, when you could be anywhere else on planet Earth doing anything with anybody. I appreciate you being here. Every little bit of like, every bit of subscription helps. So please hit the like, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and take our like and subscribe poll. Our like and subscribe poll today is, what should Vince McMahon name his sex toys? Because as we're going to find out as we read through this complaint, he gave his sex toys names of wrestlers. So we don't know what they are, but let's use our own little poll here. And what should he name his sex toy? Because it was a thing. Our choices today are Big John Stud, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Cactus Jack, and Kurt's Angle. Those are the choices. Well, see, I didn't forget Andre the Giant, but we already had Big John Stud, because of the studs, like studded for her pleasure kind of thing. I thought the Big John Stud was better, and we didn't need like two giant, big and giant kind of. Andre was left off. He didn't make the cut, because we had Big John Stud, the Hammer, Cactus, and Kurt's Angle. So there we go. Paralegal Liz, where did you get those ideas? Which ideas? These are wrestler names. These are names of actual wrestlers. Big John Studd, Greg the Hammer Valentine was big when I was a kid. Big John Studd in '90s. Cactus Jack is previous. Mick Foley's Mankind. He predated him a bit, and then Kurt Angle. He's one of the best out there. All right. No, I thought about Jake the Snake, but again, these were better. I thought about them all. I gave some serious thought to this. But all right. Whew. Let's read through the super chats that I haven't read through yet. Then we will do a little bit of a discussion about it. Then we're going to dive straight into this. Island says, if this horrifies legal vices, I'm scared. Maybe some small warnings here and there. No, you can't give warnings here and there. It's just, you know what it's about. It's about sexual assault and human trafficking, beginning to end. It's a blanket warning that covers the entire thing. Emotional support doggos. Yeah. As I said previously, if you followed me for the Taylor business trial where she did a bunch of drugs with her boyfriend, ended up chopping him up into pieces, pleasuring herself with his dismembered unit, performing post-mortem fellatio on his body, and then chopping off his junk and putting it in a bucket with his head at the bottom of the stairs for his mom to find, and scattering bits of him around the house. I said that was the worst complaint I'd ever read. It's no longer the worst complaint I've ever read. And that's a good segue into what we're going to talk about here in just a quick second. But yeah, thank you so much, Island, and the Lonely Cockapoo for your legal vices. Oh, thank you. I'm going to need it. It's 11:13 a.m. If it's not a fucking Friday, it's still a little bit early for me to be imbibing, plus the foot thing going on. But there will be need for drinks after this. And Stingy, $2. Check your ex from me. I did I see that? Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, there we go. From ESPN.com. Thank you, Stingy. Stingy bringing the current updated heat. Vince McMahon resigns from TKO after sexual misconduct claims. Vince McMahon, who co-founded the modern WWE in 1982, has resigned from his roles as TKO executive chairman and from his position on the TKO board of directors, he said in a statement provided to ESPN on Friday night. So this is 8:44 p.m. Eastern time. So this is like 30 minutes ago this news broke. So cool. There we go. Thank you so much for confirming that. That's, I guess, good confirmation. I stand by my prior statements that Ms. Grant's lawsuit is replete with lies, obscene, made-up instances that never occurred, and is a vindictive distortion of the truth. McMahon said in the statement, I intend to vigorously defend myself against the baseless accusations and look forward to clearing my name. However, out of respect for the WWE universe and the extraordinary TKO business and its board members and shareholders, partners and constituents, and all the employees and superstars who helped make WWE into the global leader it is today, I have decided to resign from my executive chairmanship and the TKO board of directors effective immediately. So there he is. McMahon is out. At least 2 generations of wrestling legends comes to an end. His father built the company to what it was. He took it, and of course, as frequently happens with these multi-generational institutes, especially these big dollar multi-generational institutes, one person goes off the rails and just crashes and burns and takes down the entire organization with them, ruins the legacy entirely. Could that be what happened here? It looks like it. But all right, what I was going to say before we get into just reading the actual complaint. This is one side of the allegation. As we've said before repeatedly and many times, you can sue anybody for anything, but it's what you can ultimately prove at the end of the day. And is this going to settle? Are we going to go to trial? If we go to trial, what evidence can she bring to prove these claims? Time will tell, and he's going to have a chance to provide his answer to these complaints, his detailed answer to these complaints in the relatively near future. So we'll get to hear at least his side of the story. But if we just look at this, as I've said over the past 2 days, including today, if she can prove virtually anything in these 67 pages, Vince McMahon is probably the worst person ever to live on planet Earth. If not, he's up there. On the other hand, if everything she says is a lie, she's one of the worst people on planet Earth. And
as I was reading through this, I thought of a few like things in favor of her story and a few things that sort of make me question her story. Um, and well, the one neutral thing is, well, why isn't she bringing criminal complaints? I don't know if there's it's a lot of it has to do with the burden of proof. You have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that things happened, that there was no consent given, et cetera, et cetera. This is a civil claim. You just have to convince the jurors you're right. And that's like, more likely than not. Okay, it's 51% chance she's telling the truth. It's 50% plus a feather or whatever they say. So just more than 50%, you go, all right, I guess she's the one that's telling the truth, so let's go. Now, one thing that's going in her favor, this isn't something that happened, she's not 20 years ago, 25 years or 30 years ago. These are things that took place 2019, 2020, 2021, so only a few years ago. Another thing that I think goes in favor of the credibility is there's a lot of details. And that's where false allegations very, very frequently collapse, is when you get too detailed and then you can't back that up. On this day, at this time, we were in this location and we did this. You just knock out one of those blocks and the whole argument falls. She's got a lot of dates, a lot of times, a lot of locations, and a lot of people that are present for these things mentioned in here. So there's a lot of specificity that would be easily checkable, I would think. So I think that goes in her favor as well. She names names. A few people are thinly veiled, but there's enough specificity to know who she's talking about in a lot of the cases. So I think that goes as well. It's not just somebody did something at some point in time somewhere, but I'm not going to tell. Yes, Dingy, I know. I know. We'll talk about that here in a second. When we get to that point, we'll talk about it. But yes, Dingy, I know it's Brock Lesnar. But there's more than that. Like there's a lot that is easily identifiable. So these are all things that are going in her favor. Now, the things that kind of make me go, and one of them is irrational. One of them is this is an irrational one, but it's a legitimate reaction I have. It's like, this is so over the top. But again, truth is stranger than fiction. So I mean, this is the irrational one. It's like, okay, this is just so ridiculous. These claims are so wild that it couldn't possibly be true. But that might also just be me like, oh my God, I hope this isn't true. So that's kind of iffy. That's more that's a me problem, I think, rather than a her problem. But the big, and there's not a lot that go against her at this point that I can see. But one of them is that these are events that took place over several years, at least a few years, depends what your definition of few, and several is, took place at least over a few years, but she continued to participate. That's kind of a negative, because if it was really this bad, I mean, how much is your job worth? It's like, oh, I was afraid of my employment. Now, if I had a choice to be homeless on the street and going through the shit, quite literally, that she claims she went through, I would be on the street that fast. So that kind of goes against it. That kind of goes against her arguments. But we'll let you guys decide. And again, this is only one side of the story. I mean, that's the big one. The second one, she signed an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, and now she wants out of that. So I guess it's kind of the same thing. It seems there's a hint, at least, which kind of makes me question that she was okay with everything until she wasn't okay anymore. And it seems like it was under the NDA, which we'll talk about later, under the non-disclosure agreement. Apparently, he was supposed to pay her $3 million. She only got $1 million. After not getting the remaining $2 million, she decides to sue. So, it's like, okay, I'm okay with it as long as I get my $3 million. I didn't get my $3 million, so now I'm not okay with it. Now I'm bringing it all out, and I'm saying how horrifying it was for me. So that would be the side that tends to make me question what she's saying. But that's the background. Now let's get into it. That all we can do now at this point is actually read through this night, and I'm chuckling not because it's fun. I mean, not because it's funny. It's just because it's shockingly horrible. It's shockingly horrible, and I don't like when people repeat themselves like that for emphasis. You know, but what happened to the little girl? But what happened to the? But what happened? I don't. But I mean, really, this is wild. And Mahalo Man. Mahalo Man, thank you so much for the support. His toys, the Ultimate Warrior or the Undertaker, they were both considered. They just didn't make the cut. They didn't make the cut. Again, you know, the Ultimate Warrior, I gave a little more serious consideration to the Ultimate Warrior than I did to the Undertaker for the toy names, but they were considered. And I even went through like lists of hundreds of wrestlers to make sure I didn't forget anyone that was clearly, obviously a great name for a sex toy, but I think I got it. Danny on direct. What's up, Danny? Danny, welcome. Welcome to horrific lawsuits here. All right. Oof. Let's get on with it. Yeah, Big Boss. The Big Boss Man thought but I thought Big John Studd was better than Big Boss Man because of the studs, you know, ribbed. Anyway, here's the lawsuit. Here's the lawsuit. We're bringing it on up. Oh Lordy, there's no turning back now. And Magician Sapphire, what's up? In a minute, member for 2 months. In your humble opinion, as a lawyer, are NDAs a sign of guilt? No. I hear a lot of talk about he made her sign an NDA that he's guilty, but there could be other reasons. No, and if you interact with anybody in the entertainment industry on any level, there's a huge chance you're going to have to sign an NDA because they just don't want their private business out in public. If you date someone, a lot of times if you go to parties, you go like after parties and things, you'll sign NDAs. You can't talk about anything that happened there, who was there, who wasn't there. NDAs are standard for anything in the industry, but there is an argument to be made that say, okay, I won't talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. Don't talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. I'll give you $3 million. Okay, but you can't talk about it. So there could be that, but NDAs are standard. Just because someone signed an NDA, don't read too much into it. Been there, done that. Said Rikishi should have made the list. Rikishi was such an unpleasant wrestler. I thought about the great Kabuki, who was a great guy from my age, but because he would like spit green stuff out of his mouth. And the Buzz CJC is a new member. Thank you so much for being the newest member of the Clean and Sober crew. It is deeply appreciated. All right, let's get on with it. And here's another thing that I think works in her favor and gives it some credibility. It's the fact that she doesn't try to hide her identity. I know you really can't in a lawsuit, but too often you want people that want to hide. They want to make the accusations, but not put their names out there. She's filed the lawsuit and dropped her name. So she's there. She's all in. Okay, I almost made a joke. I'm not going to. I'm not going to make that joke. Too easy. All right, you got 248 of you here and 131 likes. 100 of you haven't done your job. Get down there, hit that like button, and then make sure that you subscribe. And if you are subscribed, please just double check to make sure you still are. And we have the case of Janelle Grant versus World Wrestling Entertainment, NKA World Inc., also known as World Wrestling Entertainment, LLC, Vincent K. McMahon, and John Laurinaitis. We'll learn all about these. We'll learn all about these people. The complaint, Janelle Grant, by and through her undersigned counsel, hereby files this complaint against defendant World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE, Vincent K. McMahon, and John Laurinaitis. Just call him John. Why do you have to call him Laurinaitis? It's difficult to pronounce. The introduction is lengthy. We're not going to read all of the introduction because they go into greater detail on all the points raised in the introduction. But so we'll hit some of the highlights as we go down. Again, the jokes are almost unpreventable. Uh, we'll hit the highlights of the introduction, then we'll get into the meat and bones of the lawsuit. Magician Sapphire, thank you so much for the $10. I wanted to add that I heard a lot of athletes have groupies and ladies of the night sign as well. Yes, exactly. Entertainment, sports, any public figure of it was going to have NDAs all over them. It's a thing. All right. Who is the plaintiff? Plaintiff Janelle Grant is a former employee of WWE who was the victim of physical and emotional abuse, sexual assault, and trafficking at WWE. Ms. Grant is filing this lawsuit not just to address her own suffering, but also to act for those who are afraid to speak out. Okay, that's a little self-righteous. That's a little, savior complex thing. That's all right, that's a little much. She's doing it for herself. WWE billionaire, founder, and executive chairman, defendant Vince K. McMahon, lived in a penthouse duplex with Miss Grant. In Miss Grant's apartment building, they met in 2019. She was dealing with profound grief and struggling financially. After devoting years to round-the-clock caregiving, her parents passed away. Top of that, she's unemployed, and her family home was lost in her parents' bankruptcy. Now, this is something that's kind of interesting. I want more details of this, just out of curiosity, not for any legal issues. She's struggling financially. She's devoting years to giving her parents. Her parents pass away. She doesn't have a job. Her parents' home is lost. But as we find out later, she's somehow living in the same building that Vince McMahon is living in. I mean, it's just curiosity that's got me there. But she goes to work for her boss. I think we're just gonna really quickly go through the introduction, and then we'll get into the details later. During several meetings, where she's talking about she gets he's impressed, promises to give her a new life. He dangles career and life-changing promises in front of her. During several meetings that were ostensibly a potential job, he greeted her in his underwear. We'll talk about that. Touched her, repeatedly asked for hugs, keep their closeness a secret, pressed her for physical relationship, promised her employment. She succumbed to this pressure for a physical relationship, and she was given a position as an administrator coordinator that was created for her in the legal department. Then she gets changed over to he has a temporary relocation to the Extreme Football League, and then he transfers her over to the talent relations department, reporting to John Laurinaitis, who's also one of the defendants. And during that time, she is eventually promoted to vice president of operations in the talent relations department. She talks about having a little imposter syndrome, that everybody else is really busy. She doesn't have a lot of responsibilities and jobs. She didn't have any idea. She expected the physical relationship to continue as part of her employment. So she came to understand that McMahon expected the physical relationship to continue as part of her employment. She had no idea how sordid it would become, nor the psychological torture. There was alleged photographs involved. They're shared with people. A world famous athlete and former UFC heavyweight champion with whom WWE was actively trying to sign a new contract, and ultimately did sign that contract. Again, as Stingy and others mentioned, Buddha Berries mentioned it. There's only one person that really fit that bill, former UFC heavyweight champion that they were trying to get back into the WWE. It's widely understood to be Brock Lesnar, which kind of comes into play later on. The McMahons are there. Mrs. McMahon allegedly doesn't know about this. He starts calling her bitch, his fantasy, his porn star, but mixing in, hey, my girlfriend, my baby, my love. Then it gets to the extreme cruelty, the one that we've all heard right here in paragraph 20. As one example of McMahon's extreme depravity, on May 9th, 2020, he defecated on Mrs. Grant during a threesome, and then commanded her to continue pleasuring his friend with feces in her hair and running down her back, while McMahon went to the bathroom to shower off. Upon his return from the bathroom, McMahon and his friend actively resumed the threesome, which lasted for over an hour and a half, while Ms. Grant remained covered in Mr. McMahon's filth. When Mr. McMahon's friend left, McMahon ordered her to stay and continue to sexually gratify him. This is the one the media is latching on to. But as I said, this is not the worst of the allegations against him. We'll get into, unfortunately, into more detail of that allegation later. Then the two men cornered her, pulled her in between them, forcibly touched her. She begs them to stop, and he says, "No means yes, and take it, bitch." I can't do a Vince McMahon impression. You just kind of get, Grady guy there. But unsurprisingly, other WWE knew about this, and they didn't protect her. They sought to conceal the wrongdoings. Talked about the NDA, and his wife finds out, and all this goes down. He wants to pass her around to other WWE stars. Attempted to traffic her to a WWE star who would be in New York City for a live event. It's left her crippled, potentially, physically, mentally, financially, everything. Well, maybe not financially. She's got the $1 million. Despite McMahon's promise of reputational protection, WWE appears to have leaked information that led to the public disclosure of her name by a media blogger who cited a source in WWE with direct knowledge of the situation. WWE attempted to sweep it under the carpet. It kind of wraps up here. And the hush money, the words of the company, the issue was immaterial accounting errors relating to certain payments that Mr. McMahon agreed to make. Yeah, the $1 million is immaterial accounting evidences. So that is a very, very brief overview. We kind of skip through that. Now we get into the details. All right. That was just the whirlwind run up to what we're going to be talking about here. The Chugi Show says, "I'm at the beginning. Tell us all the juicy details." You see, it's not really juicy details. It's just it's horrific, horrible, icky details if they're true. Right. Well, who is all involved? The parties. Plaintiff Janelle Grant, a Connecticut citizen, is a former WWE employee. She worked there from June 2019 through March 2022. So this ended 2 years ago and started 19, 20, 2022, 6 years ago, I guess. 5 years ago. Sorry, got a wild mustache hair there. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, it starts 5 years ago and ends 2 years ago. Defendant Vincent K. McMahon, a Connecticut citizen who founded WWE in 1980 and served on the board of directors. Defendant World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE, Delaware Corporation, and John Laurinaitis, an Arizona citizen, is the former head of talent relations and general manager at WWE, who on information and belief was officially dismissed by WWE in August 2022 amid allegations of misconduct by women in WWE. Well, that's interesting that one of the defendants in this lawsuit was allegedly released because of similar allegations with other people. All right, I need to do something here so I'm not covering the I just got to remember that the line cutoff is right here, about 2/3 of the way down. All right, then there's some other actors. There's some other characters in here that they refer to as WWE Officer Number 2, Officer Number 1. They're people that just work within the company that they don't name because they're not part of the lawsuit. But I'm sure Discovery and whatever comes down the line will have their names. But right now, they're not being named because they're not part of the lawsuit. There's a board member. There's a guy who makes hiring decisions. There's number 3, who is a high-ranking employee and or a board member. There's number 4, who is a high-ranking employee, the number 4 position. And the WWE superstar is a professional wrestling superstar who performs at WWE-branded wrestling events. During the time of Ms. Grant's employment, Mr. McMahon has signed WWE superstar to a new booking contract with WWE. The individual is referred to herein as WWE superstar, whom, as we said, we realized may be Brock Lesnar. Then it goes through why it's a proper jurisdiction and why this court has proper venue over it. Then on page 9, details begin. How did they meet? Well, here's the history. Ms. Grant's introduction to McMahon turns into a 2-hour meeting between a potential entry-level employee and a billionaire CEO. Prior to having any involvement with WWE, Ms. Grant was dealing with profound grief following the loss of her parents, whom she cared for at the time as their sole caretaker. After her family passed away, Ms. Grant dedicated herself to finding gainful employment. During this time, Ms. Grant often ran into McMahon's two personal assistants in her building. Okay, one of whom was a former grade school classmate of Ms. Grant. So she's got a tie to Vince McMahon's operation. Two of his personal assistants, two people that are directly attached to him, live in her building, and one of them is a grade school classmate. So it's not like she's just a stranger that walked off the street. Ms. Grant's closest friend in the building was the resident manager. The individual is referred to herein as resident manager. Similar in personality, Ms. Grant and resident manager bonded over stories of adversity as they coordinated community initiatives in the building together. Resident manager was aware of Ms. Grant's efforts to obtain employment. In March 2019, Ms. Grant remained unsuccessful in securing long-term employment. So March 19, she still can't get a job. Resident manager offered to help Ms. Grant, suggesting she could reach out to defendant McMahon. Oh, so I have to keep remembering to scroll up here, in case he could assist, and texted him to see if he would be willing to speak with Ms. Grant to provide advice about employment. Well, McMahon responds enthusiastically, proposed a time to meet with Ms. Grant to discuss employment. Ahead of the meeting, resident manager advised Ms. Grant to be energetic, as McMahon is big on energy, and talk to McMahon no differently than she talks to resident manager. On or about March 23rd, 2019, Ms. Grant arrived for a meeting in McMahon's condo. Let's stop right there. Women, men, whoever you are, if anyone ever asks you to have an appointment in their own personal home, especially if you're not an employee yet, well, maybe even especially if you are an employee yet, don't go. Make arrangements to have it somewhere else. If a dude is asking a female employee or prospective female employee to come over to his private home where they're going to be alone for an interview, don't do it. They're not asking you over, no, they have offices. That's where professional things happen. Home is where personal things. Don't go up to hotel rooms for meetings. Hotels have meeting rooms. They have bars. They have restaurants. Anybody that asks you to come up to their private residence or come over to their private residence likely has ulterior motives that have nothing to do with your job. Don't do it. Don't be stupid. Don't be naive. And, I don't want to get into victim blaming, but don't set yourself up for this type of shit. This triggers me. The people go, okay. I mean, it happens all across entertainment, sports, whatever. Men, women, both are like, just why don't you come up to my room? Listen, all the Harvey Weinstein shit starts with come up to my room for a meeting. Meet me here in this private place for a meeting. And it happens with the women CEOs too. There's offices, there's business rooms, there's meeting rooms, there's bars, there's places with people. Don't do this. Don't. All right, now that I've got that out of me. So she arrived for the meeting in McMahon's condo with additional printed copies of her resume, a black notepad, and thank you cookies. Sitting at his dining table, McMahon looked at Ms. Grant's resume and complimented her both her communication skills and common sense before discussing little but their personal lives. For example, Ms. Grant told McMahon about the hardship that led to resident manager offering to help and described her parents' family's bankruptcy and the trauma that led her to seek financial independence to ensure she would never experience losing her home again. McMahon, so here's someone that McMahon is allegedly looking to dominate, control, and use as a victim. And she is going in and telling all these personal stories about what, her horrible, sad situation and how she doesn't want to be a victim again. She's setting herself up for this. Because it's not victim blaming. It's just use a little common sense. Don't put yourself in the situation. McMahon shared stories about his upbringing, his traumatic childhood, growing up in poverty, and current family dynamics, including a separation from Linda McMahon, described as his ex and long gone. He added his marital status is an arrangement on paper for business purposes, and he lives a quiet, isolated existence outside of the WWE. I can't imagine anything McMahon does is quiet and isolated. At the end of the meeting, McMahon told Ms. Grant that he didn't just want to give her a job, but give her a life, and that he would find a place for her at WWE. Stunned, Ms. Grant said that she didn't know how to thank him for possibly just changing my life. McMahon responded, the one simple thank you is enough, and he'd accept a hug. They stood and embraced. Okay, so far, no harm, no foul, other than being in his house when this is going down. We see this all the time, especially on shows like Undercover Boss and whatnot. I'm a hugger. I'm a touchy guy. I love hugs. So I don't have any problem with what's going on from either side until this point, other than it's a really bad place to have a meeting. Cindy Lou, why are you poo-pooing on Psychopath's fun? Because, yeah. Now, Green Lion Guardian says, oh, she's lying out her back end. Who knows? This is her complaint. She's got to bring the evidence, and he gets a chance to respond. But right now, this is where we are. We'll have to see. We'll have to see where it goes. McMahon then told Ms. Grant that he'd get the ball rolling on next steps, but it was a busy time for WWE as they prepared for WrestleMania, explaining that it was WWE's Super Bowl. He then invited Ms. Grant to attend as his guest along with resident manager and added that he would personally select their seats to have the best possible experience. McMahon advised her that his office would reach out to her and set up a meeting with a trusted official, WWE corporate officer number 2 at WWE headquarters. After asking if her cell was the best number to reach her, McMahon shared his personal number with Ms. Grant, walked her to his door, and again hugged her while whispering, "So good." First red flag. Again, for about the millionth time, I'm not victim blaming. I'm just using hindsight being 2020 to show where red flags should have gone up. When someone asks for a hug, you give them a hug, they give you another hug and whisper, "So good." Red flag. Now, I need to go back, and apparently I'd misread that the first time I read through it, because I thought she lived in his building, but she lived in the same building as 2 of his personal assistants, which if she's homeless, broke, poor, doesn't have a job, doesn't have any money, he's not paying his personal assistants very much if they're living in the same place. So I misread that, and I misstated. So she doesn't live in the same building as McMahon. She lived in a separate building with his assistants. And Island with a $5 super chat. Becoming entirely reliant on an old rich guy who wants to give you a life does not equal independence, financial or otherwise. Fair statement. Cavult on personality. If he did it, equals jail time for him. If she's lying, equals jail for her. This is only a civil case, where the burden of proof is much lower than in a criminal case, and so nobody's going to jail, but somebody's going to pay one way or the other. That's I mean, if he did, he should probably be in jail if he did anything, but there's no criminal accusations made. Let me unstar that. Thank you so much, and we are close. All right. Let's look at what happens next. Thank you so much for the support, guys. Just Don Soulless Ginger Doggo Cam update. We are $1.95 away from Doggo Cam. We're that close. McMahon arranges for Ms. Grant to be hired by WWE while beginning to groom her for sexual exploitation. On March 31st, 2019, the day before Ms. Grant was scheduled to meet with WWE Corporate Officer number 2, McMahon unexpectedly invited Ms. Grant to come back to his condo for pointers for her meeting with WWE Corporate number 2. Oh, you're going to meet with one of my underling? See, this doesn't even logically make sense. She's going to have an interview with an underling. So the boss, the guy that's above underling, is going to tell her how to conduct her interview with the underling so that the underling likes her. If you're the boss, you tell underling, hire her. The end. So it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, this should be another red flag. 2 red flags. You want me to come back to your house again? And so you can give me pointers on how one of your underlings will interview me? It should be clear at this point, if all of this is accurate, what McMahon was after. Just Don Soulless Ginger says, "Release the freaking doggos." All right, hang on. Let me set up the oldie camera here. It's been a while since the doggos made an appearance, so I wasn't really expecting it. So let me flip this over here. Both of them are here today, so we're going to have to expand the camera view. Bear with me for just one quick second. I literally didn't expect this to happen, but you guys are also freaking generous. Right. Oh, no, we're not going to update you now, camera. All right, we're almost there. Direct it around my crutches so we don't get my crutches in full view. But we get doggos in view. All right, there we go, people. There we go. It is time, as Soulless Ginger says, to
release the hounds.
My co-hosts for today are Dargy and Strawberry. I mean, Strawberry and Yoda. We got Strawberry there on the right and Yoda there on the left. They're just basking in the heat of the space heater there, which is the black thing in the upper right-hand corner. So there's the doggos for today. They'll be joining me as long as they're in the room. Welcome, dogs. Thank you for being here. It's all due to the generosity of you amazing, awesome supporters. Thank you so much for your support. It's always appreciated. All right. Well, now people are saying the BS meter's going off the charts. She was a call girl. League of License McMahon just resigned. Yet we just read the article at the beginning. Danielle, thank you so much for checking that out and keeping us on hand. Looks like we've got both of our Danielle mods here today. Hi Danielle and Danielle. Great to have you guys here. All right, let's get back into this insanity because we're just getting warmed up now. Now is when the alleged grooming commences. So he wants to have her come back to his house again so that he can give her pointers on how to interview with his underling. When she arrived, McMahon gave a huge embrace and suggested they sit on the couch. It quickly became clear that McMahon had no intention of giving her pointers for an interview except for a single direction. If the topic comes up during her meeting, Ms. Grant could state they met through a mutual friend. If that's all he said, and you're sitting on the couch, you ain't there for the job interview. And that's when you have to make the life choice. Do I walk or do I sit here? During the meeting, McMahon described a surgery he had on his knee by touching Ms. Grant's leg and drawing a line where the surgery had taken place with his finger. He stated that similar to rehabbing an injury, Ms. Grant cannot let scar tissue build up inside her from trauma, as her vulnerability is a gift. Gross. McMahon explained that people are intimidated around him and are afraid to touch him. Mr. McMahon added that he is an affectionate person who likes to hug and starves for physical affection. Keep saying McMahon. McMahon then led Ms. Grant on a tour of his condo before hugging her goodbye, again whispering, "Feels so good." Well, so it went from so good to feels so good. Dude's a serious creeper or she's a serious liar. Feels so See, for me, it's like what's her face, the secretary on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the one with the vocal fry. So I can see her going, "It feels so good." What the hell's her name? Anyway, later that day, oh no, we skipped a paragraph. On April 1st, 2019, Ms. Grant met with WWE corporate officer number 2 at WWE headquarters for a short time. WWE corporate officer number 2 hardly asked any questions. Gina, that's right, Manders. Thank you, Manders 13. It's Gina. Right. Feels so good. Gina Peretti. Thank you. No, not Chelsea. That's the actress' name, right? Anyway, later that day, okay, figuring out where Ms. Grant would be placed, and then promised to be in touch again after WrestleMania. Later that Powerline, you keep saying she's a serious liar. What evidence do you have she's lying? That's the thing. We've got to look at this very objectively. It could be either or. If she's telling the truth, he's the worst human being in the world. If she's telling the truth, if she's lying, she's the worst human being. And it's up to her to prove it. I'll call her a liar if she fails to prove it. And if it's settled, then it'll be forever unknown to the world. Later that day, Ms. Grant texted McMahon and enthusiastically described her meeting with officer number 2. She also commented on a dinosaur skull that she saw on McMahon's office wall, prompting his response, "By the way, if you're a bad girl, the T-Rex will eat you." Followed by, "Seriously, Janelle, wherever you land at WWE, you will be a credit to the organization. If you're a bad girl." Now, see, this is a text message. This is a demonstrable piece of evidence. This text message from McMahon exists or it doesn't. See, that's one thing that I think gives her credibility with a lot of these arguments. These are very, very specific, very, very easily provable or disprovable statements. On April 7th, 2019, Ms. Grant and resident manager were provided a VIP experience at WrestleMania, including private transportation in a black SUV arranged by McMahon. Per McMahon's instructions, Ms. Grant diligently took notes about her impressions from WrestleMania, her first time attending such an event. Ms. Grant left overwhelmed with emotion and feeling hopeful that everything McMahon promised was becoming a reality. On the next several weeks, McMahon invited Ms. Grant to his condo on several occasions. Dude's a billionaire head of one of the largest entertainment companies on planet Earth, and he's inviting little old you up to his house repeatedly? Are you a special little snowflake? Red flags waving everywhere. If people do this, if Jeff Bezos or Microsoft Bill Gates guy or somebody like that, Zuckerberg, if you're like someone who doesn't even have a job or has been there like 5 minutes in some position that's just made up, and you keep getting inviting back to their home, you ain't there because you're a cool employee and you're cooler than the other thousands upon thousands of people on the payroll. Red flag. So she's not even hired yet. She's been over to his house several times, and she's not even hired yet, each time assuring her that he would find the right position for her at WWE. And we got Rogue Mama with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Rogue Mama. I told my husband that McMahon was charged with SA. Then I had to explain why you have to say grape, SA, corn, etc. on YouTube. He's a fan. He's a WWE fan. He hasn't been charged with it in this case. It's a civil allegation. It's not a criminal charge. It's a civil allegation against him. But yeah, we have to, but I'm just assuming that there's no way monetization is going to happen with this. So I'm saying the words. I'm saying the words because there's if you're going to say the words and get penalized, if you're not going to say the words and get the same penalized, may as well say the words. And I need to stop saying the word penalized in this case.
Phrasing.
For each meeting with McMahon, Grant brought sample job descriptions she found online with him to demonstrate the types of roles she might fit in. McMahon listened to Grant, asked her questions, and pointed out qualities he described as rare gifts, including her goodness, vivaciousness, childlike innocence, and ability to be vulnerable, all things that made her an easy target. McMahon also initiated long physical embraces with Ms. Grant, repeatedly telling her that he trusted her, that he could be himself around her, and how he'd opened his home to her. Red flags, red flags. I think we need to
This is not a test.
I think we need to start doing the every time there's a big red flag, give some purge. You know, it's the purge signal for red flags from here on out. We're gonna go full purge with the red flags. It does sound like, see, again, we got Lonely Cockapoo saying it sounds like she's full. He was full of shit. Okay, well, we don't know if he or she is full of shit, but been there, done that. He's a shitty person. Everybody's a shitty person. Sounds like a creepy abuser playback 101. Yeah, again, these are all just allegations that are out there. We got to sort through it as more information comes into play. But all right, as soon as she turned the corner, wait a minute, okay. Trusted her, you don't open his home to her. During one visit to the condo in late April 2019, McMahon did not greet Grant when she entered, but instead called her to his master walk-in closet. I'm just here in the big walk-in closet. As soon as she turned the corner, McMahon emerged from his bathroom wearing only briefs.
This is not a test. This is an emergency broadcast. This is not.
What bigger red fucking flag do you need than that? Weinstein, Seagal, Louis C.K., and anybody that walks out of a room in their underwear when you're there for a job interview, a job appointment, a discussion, get the fuck out. You ain't there anymore for whatever reason you thought you were there for. Go. Anybody that emerges from their bathroom only in briefs, you're not there for your original purpose. And if you stick around, you're dumb. You're just an idiot. We need to bring back the word idiot. I reverted to my native Utah in there with idiot. You idiot. You're just an idiot. Kitty, don't mind the tarp on the floor. Right. Wim says, use the ship's bell for red flags. It sounds funnier. Yes. Alan Walsh, off you fuck very quickly. Right, exactly. I want to show you my rowdy, porcelain thunder. Don't. Just don't. All right. Lord have mercy. We're an hour into this and we got so much more to cover. We haven't even got to the details yet. Warning, Ms. Grant, warning. Danger, Will Robinson. McMahon emerged from the bathroom wearing only briefs, shocked. Yes, Ms. Grant turned around and apologized as McMahon laughed and asked her to turn around. He then handed her a shirt and asked for help with the buttons. McMahon reminded her that he was working hard
phrasing
on her role and he felt good about her taking care of him. If Law of Self-Defense says if Jeff doesn't reenact the alleged offense, I'm going to contest this super chat payment. If I reenact the alleged offense, I'm going to need more than the $10 to pay my own legal fees. Damn. Thank you so much, Andrew. Right. So this is she doesn't even work for the goddamn company yet. She doesn't even work for the company. She's just been visiting his house repeatedly. He's already starting to get naked in front of her before she even has the damn job. At some point, willful ignorance has to click in. Just deny. Just intentionally fail to see the warning signs. Sometime that has to kick in. You know, when the dude has had you over like 8 times, you still don't have the job. He's sitting there going all, Tom Cruise and risky business in front of you, asking you to help to put on his shirt. McMahon reminds her that he was working hard on her role and she felt good, and he felt good about her taking care of him. Around that time, McMahon told Ms. Grant that he would never forget how helpless she looked when they first met, that he wanted to wrap his arms around her and assured her that everything is going to be okay, and that Ms. Grant's problems were in the past. McMahon also told Ms. Grant that he viewed her as a true friend. However, McMahon advised Grant that people at WWE could never know about their closeness, or else rumors would spawn and threaten them. Now, from the time you are a toddler, from the time you're the teeniest of teeniest coherent children, what's the first thing your parents teach you about someone who says, here's a little secret just between you and me, don't tell the grown-ups? What that's like one of the first damn life lessons you learn. That's one of the first lessons in life you learn is, if someone tells you a secret and to keep it from the big people, then it's probably you're supposed to run directly to the big people. I'm waiting for discovery. Dear Penthouse, I never thought it would happen to me, but finally my dream is realized. McMahon logged out. He grew a tail right there in the bedroom. Thanks? Question mark. However, McMahon advised Ms. Grant that people at WWE could never know about their closeness, or else the rumors would spawn and threaten them, particularly due to Ms. Grant's physical beauty. He has some of the hottest women in his organization, and it's like, no, you're special, beautiful. McMahon also emphasized that the circumstances could jeopardize the company. Around this time, he mentioned that he had an attorney on speed dial, whom he described as best of the best at making problems, including people who became problems, go away. Well, that's a physical freaking threat against your life. That's a veiled threat against your life right there, and you're still sticking around. Don't tell the big people what's going on. Don't tell anybody what's happening, because I got a lawyer on speed dial. He's good at making people who make problems go away. Okay, Mr. McMahon, can I still have my job and a snuggle? On April, I went into this, oh my God. Anyway, on April 29th, 21st, 2000, we're still a year away from the threesome allegation, by the way. We're a year away from this threesome allegation. McMahon unexpectedly invited Ms. Grant to his condo to provide her with an update. What is his phone broken? Is his phone broken? He can't give her an update on the phone? It's got to be at his house. At some point, you have to take personal goddamn responsibility for your situation. And you can't like it until you don't like it anymore. I expected to be far more sympathetic. I was far more sympathetic the first time I read through it. I don't know. As she turned to leave, McMahon grabbed a large... Oh, we didn't get it. Okay. Upon her arrival, McMahon assured her, Ms. Grant, that he was a man of his word and that his office would be in touch with her soon about the right role. As she turned to leave, McMahon grabbed a large black... It has to be black, doesn't it? It can't just be a large electric massage. A large black electric massager, and told Ms. Grant to turn around for a demonstration. That reminds me of an old political cartoon that I saw back during the Reagan era, back before many of you were born. It was a Frank and Ernest cartoon in the daily newspaper. It was back when we were talking with the Soviet Union about disarmament. We were doing like the SALT talks and whatnot, and someone had suggested unilateral disarmament. So okay, We'll just get rid of all of our nuclear weapons, and the Soviet Union will follow. See, that's how old I am. I can talk about the Soviet Union. But the cartoon had one caveman with a big club and looking at another caveman with a big club, and he said, "Hey, Frank, what's unilateral disarmament?" And Ernest said, "Well, Frank, turn around and drop your club, and I'll show you what unilateral disarmament is." That's the vibe I'm getting from here. Hey, here's a big black electric massager. Turn around for a demonstration. He quickly moved to rubbing his hands on Ms. Grant's upper back before reminding her that she would hear from his office about next steps in a day or two. 2 days later, Ms. Grant was contacted about further meetings with WWE. A week later, she met with two high-ranking human resources employees, here and referred to as human resources number 1 and number 2, respectively. Number 1 and number 2. Okay. I can't call them number 1 and number 2, can I?
Hey, phrasing.
HR2 and HR1 provided Ms. Grant with their impressions about the company culture at WWE and confirmed that the ball was in their court to figure out where she would fit in at WWE. On May 5th, 2019, Ms. Grant visited McMahon's condo again. She's been to his condo like 10 damn times and she doesn't even have a job yet? And the topic of bucket lists came up, during which Ms. Grant expressed that she always dreamed of attending the Belmont Stakes. That's a weird bucket list. Why not the Derby? McMahon responded that he would personally acquire 2 tickets for her, which Ms. Grant said she could not accept. McMahon then stood up from his chair and knelt in front of the chair where Ms. Grant was seated. Red flag. I like the purge better, but it takes too long to cycle through the 2 purge sirens. So I guess we'll just have to stick to the bell for the red flags. I responded that he kneels down in front of her, blocking her from standing. He leaned close to Ms. Grant and told her to kiss him. Do I even need to push this? Ms. Grant paused and gave McMahon a kiss on her cheek, to which McMahon sighed. That's not what I meant. After McMahon walked off to his bedroom and said he wanted Ms. Grant, she swiftly rejected his advances. Well, swiftly? She swiftly rejected his advances? He's been giving you advances for God knows how long at this point. You may have swiftly rebuffed his advances that day, but not in the grand scheme of things. Jesus. He tried to reason with him that he was putting her in a bad position.
Phrasing.
Ms. Grant pled with McMahon to stop and think about what he was doing. Oh, he's been thinking about it. He's been planning it for a long time. Okay, Flux says the bell is funnier. Other people say Wims is right. Whatever. All right, we'll stick with the bell. McMahon then begged repeatedly simply to hold Ms. Grant. Out of fear for her employment and his earlier implied threats about his legal team dealing with problems, Ms. Grant lay down in bed next to McMahon and kept her hands clasped and ankles crossed as she acquiesced in saying that he could only hold her but nothing more. Wait, this totally goes against what happened 2 paragraphs above. In 74, she swiftly rejected his advances. She swiftly rejected them and then swiftly said, yeah, fuck it, I'll lay down in bed next to dude in his underwear, because out of fear for her employment she didn't have yet. Oh God, woman. Just the cause of action tip. Just the cause of action tip. Just for a little while, just to see how much money it's going to cost. When Ms. Grant tried to make small talk, dude is in his underwear next to you, holding you. You're like, you're like Boris Karloff in The Mummy, and you're like, so what about next Monday's episode of Monday Night Raw? Well, what about those? How about Hunter Hearst Helmsley? What's he up to these days? You make small talk about WWE TV storylines. McMahon suggested she watch the next episode of Monday Night Raw and texted him before the broadcast. After she agreed, he forcibly kissed her and began pulling down a strap on her sweater. Do sweaters have straps? Doesn't sound much like a sweater. Ms. Grant then sat up and said she needed to leave and had a lot to process and left. I don't even need to press the bell. The next day, Ms. Grant watched the show as promised and texted McMahon to wish him well. She was shocked when he appeared on the show and texted back in the middle of the live broadcast. That was a very nice message. Made me smile. On May 9th, 2019, May 19th is 1 year before the threesome incident. Still exactly 1 year to the day. McMahon texted Ms. Grant and said she will have a job at WWE by Friday. All right, we're on page 15 here now. Let's go back. It's May 9th. He said he'll have a job by Friday. I believe it was in March when they first started, right? March 19th, somewhere around there. March 2019. So it took 2 months and it seems like about 24 visits to his apartment. He's already trying to get in her pants. They've already laid down on the bed. She still doesn't have a job. The next day, HR number 2 called Ms. Grant to inform her that the WWE number 4 would contact her at 4 p.m. to discuss a legal role. After the call with corporate number 4, Ms. Grant sent McMahon a thumbs up text to indicate the call went well. Around 7 p.m., WWE corporate officer number 4 unexpectedly called her a second time and formally offered her a job, saying, "Welcome to WWE." On May 11th, McMahon invited Ms. Grant to his condo again and asked her to lay in bed with him before informing her that he had ordered WWE number 4 to offer her the job, even though a job description hadn't been firmed up beyond a high-level summary. Guy got nothing. Come on over to the condo, lay down in bed. Now let's talk about your, for fuck's sakes. As I said, and as I've said several times, if all of this is true, McMahon is the biggest scumbag that's ever lived. And if it's false, she's the biggest scumbag that ever lived. If it's somewhere in the middle, they're both kind of creepy, dirty people. Yeah. I need a palate cleanser here. With the Legal Vices merch, you can pick up from the merch store. Oh, have I been ignoring super chats here? I have. Nope, I didn't. We got that one. We don't want to read that one again. We don't want to read Andrew's super chat again. Yeah. Oh, dear. While incredibly excited to finally receive long-awaited employment and financial security, Ms. Grant expressed to McMahon that there seemed to be a conflict between his doing this and warning Ms. Grant that no one could know about their closeness. He appeared amused with his reply, "Is my company." McMahon then undressed down to his briefs while Ms. Grant remained clothed, and he began kissing Ms. Grant and inserting his hand into her pants without consent. Okay. Julio says, "Jeff, what in God's name are you doing here on a Friday night?" This has been the new time for a while, Julio. We don't do Friday mornings, we do Friday nights. So that's what we do. We're here. We've been doing Friday nights for a while now. And 313 of you here now, 207 likes. Get down there and hit that like button. So Julio, welcome to the new time frame. It just shows me you're not paying attention. You haven't been following me. Shame on you. Shame. Shame. All right. Inserting his hands into her pants without consent. Did she say stop? Did she give consent? What happened? Well, I need some more details for that one. On May 16th, McMahon informed Grant he had obtained 2 tickets to the Belmont Stakes. Next day, Grant received an offer from WWE for an entry-level job as legal administrator coordinator with a salary of $75,000. Okay, now is actually a good time to see what she's getting out of this. What did she get out of this whole relationship? We're gonna fast forward to the end, and then we'll come back here. Someone remind poor dumb old me we're on page 16. So she gets 75 grand a year. That's her base pay. There's a list up here of the things that she got. And you have to decide, is it worth it? I forgot to note where this is. Damn it. Here we are. Okay. So she starts out with a base pay of $75,000. And here's the gifts given to her from the time all of this sexual assault and trafficking events occurred. Is this enough to make you stay with the company? $75,000 a year. 2019. These are just examples. Alternative clinic medical care and medical and cosmetic services and products, clubhouse access to the Belmont Stakes, WrestleMania private full-day transport and premium tickets, $2,000 Nordstrom gift card, and a massive box of Godiva chocolates. In 2020, so $75,000 plus that. In 2020, $75,000 plus $20,000 towards surgery paid directly to a surgeon's office. Ladies, how much surgery can you get for 20 grand? Pearl diamond pave lariat, I don't know, lariat necklace from Betteridge in Greenwich, Connecticut. A blue cashmere knee-length cardigan from Nordstrom Blue Burberry check cashmere scarf from Nordstrom, blue cashmere and fur hat from Nordstrom, gray cashmere shawl from Nordstrom, Celine sunglasses from Nordstrom, cable knit throw blanket, and large bouquet of flowers delivered approximately every other week. If the dude's a billionaire and he's buying you shit from Nordstrom, now Nordstrom might be a step up for a lot of people, but if you're a billionaire and you're like, just like here's your hat from Nordstrom, you're not grifting right, lady. Examples of items received from Ms. Grant from 2021. So $75,000 for the year, plus a 2022 BMW 430xi, $5,000 gift certificate, and Landfear Spa, 2 private chef catered dinners in McMahon's condo, gold and diamond PAV paperclip necklace from Betteridge in Greenwich, Connecticut, $15,000 Bloomingdale gift cards. Okay, so she's making the bank here in 2021. Food assortment display. What's that, like a Hickory Farms basket, or a food assortment display, an antique tea ceremony set from Saudi Arabia, and large bouquet of flowers delivered approximately every other week. So 75,000 plus those gifts is, ladies, as we go through this, ask yourself, is that enough to justify and to satisfy you for all of this? That she's gone through a bunch of shit now. Now that she's an employee, it starts to ramp up, allegedly. Okay, it's a high-level job. He gets there, start kissing, inserting. 5,000. Okay. On May 18th, McMahon summoned Grant to his condo again. God dang, why didn't she just frickin' move in? And she brought a painted, printed copy of the offer letter to review with him. McMahon informed Grant that a new boss, a WWE employee who worked in risk and government relations, referred to as employee number 1, was a decades-long family friend and confidant, similar in age to McMahon, and one of a small original group, which McMahon called the Titan family, who helped WWE expand from a regional promotion to a global juggernaut. McMahon stated that outside of his attorney, employee number 1 was the most feared figure in the company because employee number 1 usually fired employees. Beyond that, he offered little detail about number 1's role at WWE. Instead, he focused on number 1's personal traumas, explaining to Ms. Grant that number 1 has no family left after number 1's spouse passed away, and the McMahons and WWE were number 1's surrogate family. McMahon touted WWE employee number 1's loyalty, saying employee number 1 would be able to protect Ms. Grant, and then led her to his bedroom while giving her the command of, "Please don't stop this." Oh, see, because I like to be a shit stirrer. Julio, who's been a member for 16 months. Thank you, Julio. Julio, with the $5 super chat, outed. Now everybody knows I go to bed early on Friday nights, but she's not going to bed early on Friday nights. She's picking fights with another $5 super chat. What's the difference between a BMW and a porcupine? Porcupine has the pricks on the outside. Andrew Branca, response? Let's get it on. Oh yeah, out in the left corner from parts unknown, it's Andrew Branca and Julie O from wherever Julie O is from. It's going to be a match. All right, let's go. McMahon stated, "That's what I've been waiting for." Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Now we're getting into the bad shit. During May 18th, 2019, Ms. Grant felt coerced into engaging in sexual activity. And the McMahon had trapped her in an impossible situation as she feared adverse career and personal consequences and legal retaliation if she declined his advances. McMahon stated, "This is what I've been waiting for," as he performed oral sex on her. Ms. Grant asked that protection be used. That doesn't sound much like oral sex. Performed oral sex on Ms. Grant. Ms. Grant asked for the protection be used, and McMahon responded, "There's no need to worry because he's clean." Feeling that she was being used for his gratification. Well, what was your first fucking clue, Grant? What was your first fucking clue you were being used for his gratification? I don't know. Oh, and Branca fires back. We all know what Julio has done from the passenger seat of a BMW. Just get it on. All right. Uh-oh. By the way, Julio, if you haven't been able to tell, Andrew Brank is the proud owner of multiple BMWs. It's called Roadhead, which is a term that I learned about 3 days ago. So there we go. All right, we can't have two separate events happening here. I've got to focus on the McMahon essay and trafficking allegations. Right. Feeling that she was being used for his gratification. Feeling, not quite certain, but maybe possibly. God damn it. Grant went numb and was unable to make eye contact. McMahon then flipped on his back and said, okay, jack him off. Why? Why do I have to read this? Okay, jack him off. Jack him off, Finan, nay. Aiko ande. Jack him off, babe. All right, anyway. Jack him off, Finan, nay. Disturbed by the non-consensual sexual encounter. It kind of sounds consensual, doesn't it? I don't know. Coerced, I guess. But she did it anyway. Anyway. She hoped that McMahon would cease his advances. Oh, what on earth would give you the possible clue that he might cease his advances when you keep doing more and more each time? Oh, I know it gets worse, Just Cause. I know it gets worse. We're not even getting. We're barely started. Giacomo Finane. On June 16, 2019, but his advances continued and left her to fulfill his demands or lose her job. Ladies, are you ready to lose your job yet at this point? Are you ready to lose your job? Or you're like, never mind, I'm still cool with this. On June 16, 2019, the day before starting in WWE, they're already smashing and jack them off. And she hasn't even officially started working there yet, for God's sake. March, April, May. We're 4 months into this courtship for her job. She's worried about being fired and she hasn't even started working yet. Lady, damn. Ms. Grant attempts to shut down any further physical contacts or sexual encounters by admitting to McMahon her unhappiness and concern, starting her first ever job in his legal department, no less. While in a physical relationship with the chairman and CEO, she requested they end any physical relationship while remaining friends to avoid any risk to either of them. McMahon refused, saying that it was not ending. It did not need to, and he did not ever envision it ending. He reminded that he trusted her, reiterated that rumors would lead to trouble, probed whether her silence would be an issue, and brushed off concerns that she was struggling with the feeling that her job felt unearned. McMahon told Ms. Grant that all she needed to do was not tell anyone. It just has to look legit. McMahon then spun the conversation and told Grant to focus on the positives and embrace her life. And embrace that her life was about to change, saying, "Isn't that what you've always wanted?" McMahon manipulatively emphasized that she's about to start an adventure and gain a new family with the WWE, a surrogate for the family she had lost. Ultimately, Ms. Grant's unsuccessful attempt to end further unwanted physical contact. You want to know a way to end unwanted physical? Quit. There's a way. There's a way to end it. Quit. Go find another job. You ain't going to get a recommendation from this one, but hey, ultimately, Grant's unsuccessful attempt to end further unwanted physical contact taught her that her view on the matter was not relevant. Ms. Grant's WWE career commences minimal work and an absent boss. So, she starts working for the company. Her other colleagues are complaining that their inboxes are overflowing. She's not getting a lot of work out of this. Nobody can tell her what her title of administrator coordinator meant. Nobody even knows what it is. Law of self-defense says plaintiff seeking to optimize jurors for women bitterly resentful for having ever blown a guy. Guys, I urge you to avoid such women. Women are mostly not like that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying is I would hope from the bottom of my soul that the vast majority of young women just entering the workforce wouldn't even get as far as the first, why don't you come over to my condo and talk discussion, let alone all this other shit that happened the last 4 or 5 months before she actually started her job in a position that no one can tell her what it is. And again, I don't want it to sound like I'm victim shaming, but at some point, you are responsible for the decisions you make and the situations you leave yourselves in. Men or women, for God's sake. Employee number 1 and Ms. Grant bonded quickly, as McMahon had predicted. Grant, referred to as partner, was taught words to live by in WWE, including, "We do what is in the best interest of the company. Protect the business, and if McMahon wants something, the answer isn't no, but rather how do we make it happen?" Employee number 1 also impressed on Ms. Grant that job titles don't mean anything for members of McMahon's inner circle, which she clearly was considered to be part of. So she went from street urchin to inner circle. Gee, how did that happen? As employee number 1 was seldom in the office and required little support, Grant was directed to another employee, number 2, who provided her the occasional projects to talent appearances on XFL. They'll fill her time. And number 4 notices he's put on notice that there's something different about her, namely her connection to McMahon. So everybody starts treating her with extra respect, maybe, and a little more coldness, some of them are saying. If Miss Grant walks into a room where number 4 was laughing with colleagues, number 4's expression immediately became blank. Number 4 would walk away. So number 4 doesn't seem to be happy about this. Number 4 and Grant walked towards each other in the hallway, and number 4 would stop and change directions. Colleagues notices the shift in behavior, and some commented on it to Grant. Others emulated it. So she's being shunned? But Grant took her employment in seriously. In contrast, McMahon continued a pattern of sending sexually charged messages throughout the work week. Certain her employment depended on continued appeasement and obedience to McMahon and believing she needed. See, this is where their argument of brainwashing, grooming comes in. That's they got to slip in the and believing she needed McMahon's protection from the suspicious number 4 and others. She felt no choice. She was brainwashed. She couldn't help it. Had no choice but to respond in kind. From this, Grant began to experience debilitating panic attacks in the office on a near daily basis that left her physically drained. She could not hide the physical symptoms of these attacks and texted resident manager, "You should see the way people look at me when I'm having an attack." But while her coworkers noticed, no one dared get involved. Island with a $5 super chat. Where's the part where he's unclear about what he's offering? If she was interested, how should she have signaled that differently than what she did? Yeah. Yeah. He's never been unclear in what he wanted. She's like, no, don't stop, keep stopping, stop some more. Oh, please keep stopping, stop some more. Oh, Megan Fox. I heard I had to get over here. What fuckery are we up to? We're reading the complaint against Vince McMahon. I can't even describe what the first 5 months of this relationship with him and an ex-employee have been. But she was in the sack with him already before she got the job offer. And again, I guess now is probably the time to reiterate what I said at the beginning. Either Vince McMahon, if this is true, is the worst human being on planet Earth, or if it's not true, she's the worst person on planet Earth. And if it's half and half, they're both pretty creepy, horrible individuals. Time will tell. Andrew. McMahon's coercive control tactics to sexualize and dehumanize Ms. Grant. In the summer of 2019, McMahon's presence was all-consuming in Grant's life. In the office, she felt monitored. Okay, TLDR for everyone that's just joining like Megan late. She's lost her house. Her parents have died. She's never had a job. She doesn't have a job. And one of her friends, who was a personal assistant to McMahon, says, "Hey, maybe I can give a good word." And 4 months later, she's been over to McMahon's house about 24 times. They've been in bed. He's felt her up. They've engaged in sex. Then he gets a job She's given a job, administrator, coordinator, that nobody can tell her what it means. She doesn't really have any responsibilities. That brings us up to line. Now we're into how he continued his control tactics. In the summer of 2019, his presence was all consuming in Grant's life. In the office, she felt monitored, closely surrounded by allies, which led to continual daily panic attacks. Outside the office, McMahon sexualized her entirely. He no longer referred to her as a friend and largely stopped talking to Grant outside of sexting and fantasy talk. On non-sexual texts related to life or work, they were either ignored or given token responses like okay or yup. By the way, if you ever get a response from me that says yup, yeah, it just means all right. As detailed herein, McMahon was adamant about having Ms. Grant send him explicit photographs, impressing upon her that it was part of her sexuality. Given the control that McMahon had over Grant's employment, she felt compelled to comply and sent the explicit photographs to McMahon's mobile device. Grant was routinely assured that the photographs she was providing McMahon were to remain private and were part of their secret world. Again, from the time you're 3 years old, what are you taught about keeping secrets from the big people? And also, from the time you're old enough to have your own phone, what are you taught about someone who says, oh, send me the naked pictures. I promise I'll never show them to anybody. Yeah, if you send a picture to anybody, you can pretty much almost be assured that someone else is going to see it. So she was assured that they would stay part of their secret world, yet McMahon begins to degrade Grant, calling her his bitch, while hinting at a fascination with other people watching them engage in sexual activity. Now, I'm going to mention something here in a few minutes that just sort of, when I did minimal research for this, there was a few things I wanted to check, and I did come to notice something that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. Rosalind Duke, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. So lucky to show up for this double header, a dumpster fire lawsuit and a good old fashioned bashing and trashing of the lady folk from Branca. He cracks me up. I thought you were going to say me, but okay. Thank you so much, Rosalind Duke. And Julie O, my favorite saying, the best him, her went out the sheets. Quote from my mom. Love your mom. Your mom and my mom would have gotten along, I think. I don't like it when victims participate in their abuse. She had no alternative because she might lose her job, her $75,000 a year job. Yeah, she had no choice. Brainwashed. See, again, I'm having this weird inner conflict because the first time I read this, I was incredibly sympathetic to her. The second time I'm reading through it, I'm not nearly as sympathetic as I was. Mommy Megan Fox says, what do I always tell you? No nudes. And Rosalind Duke. So, we already read that one. How did I get what? Did you send the same thing twice? Oh, you did. I hope you didn't mean to do that intentionally. Oh, well, I'm sorry if that's the case. Feel free to charge back one of those if you donated inappropriately. Yes, Megan, there are other jobs. That's kind of my argument, but does Dick have carbs? He's got a lot of protein. I don't know about carbs. All right. Here we go. Now we're getting in. Now it's escalating further. Additionally, his complaint details encounters during which McMahon caused Grant to sustain physical injuries, including bleeding and pain from forceful use of sex toys. Despite Grant's plea to cease any further sexual activity, a number of sexual encounters increased, as did McMahon's physical aggression during them. Notably, McMahon was most aggressive when using these certain sex toys named after male WWE wrestlers and performers. McMahon named the sex toys so that the color of the toys matched the race of the wrestler. No! For example, a black dildo would be named after an African-American wrestler, while a white dildo would be named after a Caucasian wrestler. Fuck. In addition to McMahon's infatuation with pretending that other men, namely certain WWE talent, were in the room with them, this was yet another incremental step in desensitizing Ms. Grant to his fantasy and eventual demands that she perform sexual acts for and or have sexual contact with others within WWE. All right, well that's a perfect time for a midstream grift here, a midstream break. Everybody, currently there's 325 people here and 235 likes. That means 100 of you haven't done your job. Get down there and hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed, please, please, please do. I would greatly appreciate it. It's free, it costs nothing, not even shipping and handling. Just that's the way it is. It's just free. Just get down there and hit it. And if you are subscribed, please double check to make sure you're still subscribed. I would appreciate it. We're growing onwards and upwards. We've crossed 67,000. We're almost to 67,100 in just a matter of days. Let's keep on trucking. And while you're at it, come over here and take our like and subscribe poll, which is, what should McMahon name his sexual toys? Yes, it was a thing. See, I told you it was a thing. This is the thing. This is the thing we're talking about here. We don't know what the names are, but here's our names. Choose your preferable name from the 20% of you have chosen Big John Stud, or she's a Big John Studded for her pleasure. Big John Stud. 22% of you, Kurt's Angle. 26% of you chose Cactus Jack. And 31% of you chose Greg the Hammer Valentine. Those are the names you've chosen for Vince McMahon's sex toy. We'll check on how that ends a little bit later. So finger the like button and smash the subscribe button, and let's get back into this here. Now, this thing about having this fantasy of getting naked in front of other dudes and knocking boots while people are watching and stuff. I actually think there's okay. Let me get Megan out of here. Okay, there we go. I mean, all right. I was watching the wrong feed. Megan, I'm not getting you out of anywhere. Just never mind. I misspoke. I was looking at the wrong screen. Okay. Now about this, when I was searching a couple of things and looking a couple of things up on the internet, and I was looking for a picture of Vince McMahon for the thumbnail, and I can't remember what the search term was. It was something like Vince McMahon weird shirtless, because I wanted like a weird shirtless picture of him flexing. So, but there's a lot of pictures of Vince McMahon like getting his pants pulled down in the ring, showing his ass in the ring, getting spanked in the ring. I haven't done it, and I don't plan on it because I saw enough searching for shirtless weird posing or whatever I searched for. But if you search for Vince McMahon ass picture, you would see that dude really does appear to have some sort of public nudity fetish. Because there's a lot of ass shots of him like bearing his ass for one reason or another in the ring on camera. And there was a big deal where he wanted, if I recall correctly, I think it was even his son that mentioned it, Shane McMahon. I think he mentioned in an interview that he wanted to write in like some sort of incest thing between Shane and his sister into the storyline, and then later this didn't get anywhere off the ground, but yeah, there was a lot of ass things going on with Vince McMahon in the WWE. So this kind of lends a little credence to her assertions here. So this is kind of outside of the boundaries of the document evidence that I think kind of supports her. There was just a lot of Vince McMahon ass when all I was searching was for a shirtless picture of him flexing. So I can't imagine what would be there if you just searched for Vince McMahon ass pics. Oh, okay. Bruce Pritchard talked about that incest storyline on his podcast too. Okay. Yeah, dude is weird. I mean, he's confirmed weird, but this whole public nudity, public sexuality thing apparently is a thing. Like I said, Megan, I was literally like Vince McMahon shirtless weird pose or something like that, and I got like half my screen was ass shots. I can't even imagine if you actually search for Vince McMahon ass shots. Anyway, let's move it right along before I dig the hole any deeper. During a David versus Goliath type wrestling match in 2019, Grant shared with McMahon her thoughts on the event, the draw of the rooting for the underdog, and ideas for future events. McMahon complimented on her nice creative input. Thank you. She believed she was being taken seriously, that is, until McMahon named a dildo after the smaller wrestler and attempted to sexualize the situation, diminishing her input. Well, speaking of input, what did he name the dildo? Okay, this is... By fall of 2019, McMahon frequently pressed for pornographic videos and more explicit content. When Grant expressed apprehensions with his request, McMahon responded with assurances that she could trust him, questioned why she didn't trust him. McMahon took care to remind Grant of his power and influence, such as flaunting a meeting with the Saudi crown prince in October 2019. Okay. Big deal. McMahon tightens his grip on Ms. Grant and discredits her doctor, replacing him with one of McMahon's choosing. So this is where she begins having increasingly severe physical, mental, emotional symptoms, including sleep disruption, dizziness, exhaustion, rashes, weight loss, hair loss, migraines. Ms. Grant informed McMahon that her doctor suggested it stemmed from trauma and, quote, ongoing stress. And McMahon mocked her, emotional trauma, my ass. Again, more with the McMahon ass. There's more ass there from McMahon here. He gets him a celebrity doctor to give her his own opinion. The celebrity, okay, this comes in a little bit later here, not too far, not in too distant future. A celebrity doctor made comments about how celebrity doctor they referring to McMahon and alternative clinic, had saved her life. A celebrity doctor often remarked how Grant was able to even make eye contact with celebrity doctor during their initial sessions, an obvious sign of trauma. So alternative clinic makes an appearance here a little bit later on in the document. So celebrity doctor lavishes attention, then the celebrity doctor challenged her on whether she trusted celebrity doctor and postured that if she didn't trust celebrity doctor, then we should part ways right now. Well, each session lasted an hour. Grant would leave feeling exhausted from celebrity doctor's deep dives into her personal and work life as a coach focused on behavioral science. 2020, McMahon voices concerns about rumors publicly exploits her. I need to have a drink of water. I'm getting tongue-tied. It's just water, I promise. Concerns about rumors publicly exploits her and Grant's desperate attempt to leave WWE. It's like she's being held captive somewhere. It's yeah. All right. We're not even to the bad. I know we keep reading bad stuff, but we're not even to the really bad stuff yet. On January 30th, 2020, WWE issues a press release announcing the company's co-presidents will be departing the company and would no longer serve on the board of directors. They get new directors in. McMahon sends a message to Grant advising he's been informed that there's a lot of rumors circulating about them. So people are circulating rumors. It's not good for either of them. They decided to temporarily relocate her to the XFL, the football workforce. So that's where she goes. And she finally tells McMahon she applied to remain with the XFL and her request was denied. She's brought back in. Despite McMahon's warning about rumors and directions for her to play dumb, he begins showing explicit photos of Ms. Grant to people both inside and outside the company. McMahon sent a lengthy message on March 26, 2020 to Ms. Grant describing in detail the circumstances surrounding sharing explicit photographs of her to a former WWE referee, referred to herein as WWE referee. The referee left to masturbate and told Grant she had made a perfect stranger very happy. Red flag. We don't even need to do she's involved now. She's involved. The red flags go out the window at this point. She initially dismissed as mere fantasy talk, believing McMahon would not actually do such a reckless thing. But when she voiced apprehension about McMahon sharing naked photos of her with someone she didn't know, McMahon's response was not to comfort her, but to assure her of the referee's loyalty to him. The sharing of explicit photos terrified Grant, illustrated McMahon's lack of self-control. This is your first clue. Further panicked her that these private, intimate photos, including her face, would be shared with complete strangers. On March 30th, 2020, McMahon enthusiastically messaged. massaged, enthusiastically messaged Grant that WWE referee had showed a friend a naked photo of Grant, which marked the beginning of McMahon sharing naked photos with others who he encouraged to share with their friends. This wasn't even a showing like, hey, check out this chick. This was like sending it to them and going, yeah, send it to other friends. On March 31st, Grant expressed concern that she had no intention of having sex with these strangers and requested McMahon make the message clear as she felt threatened and distressed by the responses her pictures were getting. She made it clear she did not want any perception of her moving beyond the point of mere fantasy. Shortly after, McMahon surprised Grant with news that he had protected her from a job furlough that the WWE would announce. The furlough affected a large number of employees, and he personally protected her. McMahon became the most important figure in Grant's life. They already mentioned that. As he meticulously asserted power and control over almost every aspect of it, Grant's fears intensified over the consequences. Particularly by sharing her naked pictures, she became paranoid, completely dependent on, and worshipfully devoted to McMahon. He, in turn, pressed forward in exerting his powers over Ms. Grant as he saw fit. Well, now he recruits other men and forces Ms. Grant into sex trafficking. Now we've got to the mid-level bad stuff. This is only mid-level bad stuff. May 2020. This is the event the media is picking up on. Sweet Mama Megan, if you're in chat, plug your ears. If you're still here, Megan, it's time for Mom to plug her ears because this is where it starts to get gritty. In May 2020, McMahon recruited an individual whom he manipulatively referred to as a friend to engage in a threesome. With McMahon and Ms. Grant, the friend turned out to be McMahon's physical therapist at Alternative Clinic, where Celebrity Doctor was. So Alternative Clinic physical therapist is the friend and is referred to herein as physical therapist. To induce Ms. Grant's participation in the threesome, McMahon began referring to Grant as his girlfriend and sent her a large bouquet of flowers. Nevertheless, on May 8th, Grant expressed apprehension about participating in the threesome. She don't want to do the threesome. She doesn't want to do it. No threesome for me. Thank you, boss. In response, McMahon insisted that the plans were already made, and I would lose a friendship if you don't go through with it. I don't want to do a threesome. Oh, but we already made the plans, and my friend will be so disappointed. On the day of the threesome, on May 9th, Grant showed up to the condo. She doesn't want to do it. Gotta get the stature. She doesn't want to do it. She doesn't want to go through with it. She doesn't want to participate, but she shows up and she showed up to reiterate that she doesn't want to go through with the act. She expressed fear of being thrown around like a rag doll by McMahon and physical therapist. After Ms. Grant clearly states she wanted to back out, McMahon responded by telling Grant for the first time that he loved her. But baby, it's a threesome with my friend. I love you. Come on. Stunning her into silence. McMahon's manipulative tactic resulted in the outcome he wanted. So just saying, but baby, I love you. Hasn't she ever listened to Paradise by the Dashboard Light by Meatloaf? Come on, young lady. Listen to Meatloaf's Paradise by the Dashboard Light and you'll see how this is going. McMahon's manipulative tactic of saying, but I love you, girl, resulted in the outcome he wanted. And he led her down the stairs to the bedroom where a physical therapist was already waiting to begin the threesome. Early in the encounter, McMahon immediately directed Ms. Grant to lay down on her back in a supplicating position. While straddling over her, McMahon defecated on Ms. Grant's head. Again, this is not the worst thing we're going to hear. Yeah, Haley Wolf. Okay, now it got weird. Yes. Wait, what? Says D what? It's right there in your name, D what? Wait, what? Julie, oh, wait, what? Yep. Lamau. Eric just says Lamau. Yes. All right. While straddling over her, McMahon defecated on Ms. Grant's head. McMahon left to shower off, but instructed Ms. Grant to remain in place with excrement in her hair and to continue performing for his friend. While Ms. Grant requested protection, none was offered. McMahon and physical therapist actively continued with the threesome and directed Ms. Grant's sexual performance for around an hour and a half while she was left covered in feces. Following the threesome on May 11th, 2020, McMahon sent an explicit message to Ms. Grant that further detailed fantasies of seeing her engaged in sexual relations. Lucentale says, doesn't it stop being a threesome when one of them leaves? Well, he left to go shower, and then he came back and continued to participate in the feces-covered threesome for an hour and a half. Following the threesome, she gets this message. I love it. That's you, Janelle. You just can't get enough, can you? In the future, it's going to be so bad that you'll demand to be fucked twice a day and not just with blank in a three-way. Why not let others see the beautiful, voluptuous body and watch you shake uncontrollably when you come? They'll go out of their minds. Then I'll find more friends and we'll tie you up so you're helpless. I'll direct them to have their way any way they want. Who can make you scream the loudest? Maybe I'll just line them up and then have them squirt in your mouth, your pussy, all over your tits and ass, all at the same time. You'll be covered in cum and we'll make you eat it. And I'll taste everybody's cum. The next morning you'll be a little sore, but you're still going to want more. And after all that fucking is over, I'll be something. This is the first of the text messages, by the way. This is the first. This is the first of the text messages, the Shakespearean level dialogue that we're going to be reading. McMahon then pressured Ms. Grant into several additional threesomes. Liz Butts, I literally logged off. Stop saying logged off, people. McMahon then pressured her into several additional threesomes, in large part because she felt she had no other choice, particularly after McMahon's comments that he had personally ensured that she had not lost her job. Her subsequent run-ins with physical therapists at Alternative Clinic also served as a reminder of how much was at stake. So she continued to go to the doctor at the hospital where the dude that had the threesome where she was shat upon against her will was at. Text conversations began to cross over from McMahon's fantasies into realities. Grant often attempted to avoid physical encounters with physical therapists. There was no room. When she told McMahon there was no room for a third body. Oh dear. What does Andrew Branca have to say now? Thank you so much, Andrew. Reality, there are women who are into this stuff. Nobody I'd recommend marrying, but they exist. Absolutely. There are women that are into it. There are dudes that are into it. If it's consensual, have at it. Keep your kink, fly your freak flag outside, wherever nobody else has to. I don't want to know anybody's kink. I don't want anybody to know anything about me. I don't want to know about you. If this is the literal shit you're into, be into it. Just keep it that way. Keep it consensual. So that's why I'm kind of saying that was the one thing that the big thing that sort of discredits this. It seems like she's into it until she's not. There's a $3 million NDA. She only gets $1 million of it. And then she's like, well, maybe I'm not into this anymore. So was she into it and then later decided she wasn't when she didn't get the full 3 mil? Or was she literally brainwashed into performing all of these horrible things? It's going to be up to the evidence to see what can be proven. It's going to be hard to prove that there was a threesome with dude and you got someone took a shit on your head. And, if maybe there are security cameras or bedroom cams in McMahon's house that can refute these things or whatever. But the initial burden of proof is on her to prove that any of this happened. You can sue anybody for anything. You can make any allegations you want. You have to be able to prove it. So that's what she's got to prove. She's got to prove that these caused her damages, et cetera, et cetera. But hey, if you're into this, be into it. No regrets. Fly your freak flag. Embrace it entirely. After the threesomes began, he became more sadistic in his fantasies, focused on control such as choking, sensory deprivation, pain, humiliation, group scenarios in which Grant was to be physically overwhelmed and subservient. Your last picture. Who says your last picture? Your last picture. You need your panties ripped off and 3 big black dicks in all 3 holes at the same time. Way up your pussy, way up your ass, as far as they will go, even farther. And the thickest cock goes down your throat so it makes you gag and convulse as those big black cocks pound away. And it feels like from the start you're being assaulted, but it's made you come nonstop, just one continuous constant orgasm. And just before you pass out, those big black dicks squirt their load to come inside you as you lay on your stomach. The cum is coming out and all over your holes. I'll turn you over and jack off all over you. What a pleasant guy seriously, what a pleasant guy. Arguably, if it's proven this text came from him, one of the worst human beings ever. On one occasion, he instructed Ms. Grant, "Do not knock on the door, because if I see you, I'll grape you in the hallway." To leave no doubt regarding the dynamic of their relationship, on May 12th, texted Grant, "I'm the only one who owns you and controls who I want you to fuck you." A theme that it was often reiterated throughout their involvement. Now, mind you, the involvement continued a year after this. Ms. Grant sent text to McMahon noting her 1-year anniversary of joining WWE. McMahon ignored her. A month later, McMahon reminded Grant about the far-reaching results of his texting out explicit content. "By now, thousands of men see you every day all over the world. They all want to fuck you." He openly shared explicit photographs, salacious stories with WWE crew, the WWE crew, tapings, etc., etc. She had a big fan club going. And we've got this story. He just shared it with 12 people and recounted the obscene details he shared with them. I'm not sure I want to read this one. "I just passed my phone around to a bunch of guys on the tech crew. They were screaming, 'OMG, she's fucking beautiful. Look at that ass. I'd like to get that.' I paused to count out loud how many guys were there. 12! I then said, 'Okay, there's 12 of you, and she would love to fuck each and every one of you at one time.' The guys cheered, but this is such bullshit. McMahon is feeding her bullshit if he sent this text. But she will only do, yo! The guys cheered, but she will only do it if she takes 3 at a time. That brought a huge reaction. She wants one deep in her ass, one way down her throat, and one in her pussy. And you can pound her and keep pounding her until you pop your load. She may scream and try to say no, although it would be difficult to say anything with a cock down her throat." They laughed. And that's and et cetera, et cetera. This one gets a little bit extreme. Like the others weren't. This one's I cannot continue to read that text. On the occasions when Grant informed McMahon that she was physically injured during their encounter, McMahon's response varied from apologies to non-accountable pushback and blaming impulse control. When encounters were particularly brutal, Grant learned to bookend the truth of her injuries with compliments to create the least amount of pushback. Like, "Oh my God, you're so huge and massive and awesome that you just hurt me." Is that what he's saying? Bookend them with compliments. "Oh, Mr. McMahon, you're so big and strong and brutal. Oh, you just left me horribly ruined and painful." Yeah. However, Grant sustained brutal and painful injuries, including bleeding, swelling, bruising, spans of incontinence resulting from forceful use of his fists, adult toys, and objects unsafe for vaginal insertion or penetration. For instance, on October 20, we need an example, right? For instance, Grant texted McMahon that she was injured during their latest sexual encounter as a result of McMahon's insistence on penetrating Ms. Grant with extra large sex toys, including a vibrating wand that caused her to panic. McMahon ignored Grant's warning that the device was not meant for insertion and forcefully shoved the wand inside of her so deeply it became stuck for a period. She texted she was in pain and bleeding a lot between last night and today. And I'm on the floor right now because I can't get comfortable. On August 29th, like 10 days later, on the next day, she texted him an update that she was still really uncomfortable. And I got hurt in some ways that I'm having trouble describing. McMahon did apologize, saying that sometimes I just get carried away. Yeah, my poll's not going. I can't even finish that sentence, Andrew. My poll's not going that way. During this time, McMahon recruits Laurinaitis into the exploitation, transfers her to Laurinaitis' department, and then the axes her at WWE headquarters. During this time, Grant became so sick from stress that he'd been subjected to her weight plummets to just over 100 pounds, which he ignored. He drove on November 21st. He drove her to the headquarters to fulfill his fantasy of having sexual encounter with her in his office. Mr. Don't tell anybody. Let's go over to the office. Causing Ms. Grant to suffer a panic attack in the passenger seat while pleading with McMahon to change his mind, drive her home, scoffed, then gave her an ultimatum. Either she have a sexual encounter in his office or inside the parked car. Terrified, she obeyed his directions and they entered WWE for the encounter. Despite Grant's repeated statements she didn't consent to threesomes with McMahon and a physical therapist, McMahon advised her to advertise her to others and told her that he found another person to join them, defendant John Laurinaitis. Let's call him John because I hate trying to pronounce Laurinaitis correctly. In November 2020, McMahon pressed Grant to make explicit photos and videos to send to John. McMahon orchestrated exchanges by instructing Grant when to create explicit content for John, including what to say, provide her with notes to adjust her performance. He's giving her porn directions. Great. Good job, McMahon. Dirtbag. McMahon then facilitated the exchange of explicit content back and forth between Grant and John. Noticeably, once phone numbers were exchanged between Grant and John, McMahon insisted that he be privy to any messages that Grant sent to him and demanded she report back. It's instructed to tell John that she's a neighbor and a girlfriend. She asks, is he the first one? Then it goes on to them having intercourse. McMahon sent Grant to establish a schedule for when other men, including physical therapist and John, could have sex with her, which Grant attempted to rebuff. Exactly, baby. He's the only one. Blank called me this afternoon begging to eat you and fuck you with his nice and hard dick. Give me another week, baby. She's calling him baby, and I'll be ready. I'm feeling more like myself. It's not great, but I'm getting better. Tell him soon. I already told him, baby. By the way, Johnny wants Tuesdays, but not this coming one, and the occasional Saturday, but maybe I can shift it to Thursday nights. Johnny would like all the above. Text like this, a shift schedule, caused Grant to suffer breakdowns over how women. When do you leave? When do you go, okay, my job ain't fucking worth this. It ain't fucking worth going to work and having this job. 75 grand a year ain't fucking worth it. At what point does this happen, ladies? What point do you just go, all right, I'm out? Now, again, if she suffered through all of this, if everything she says is accurate, Vince McMahon and all of his compatriots that are involved need to rot forever and burn in the burniest parts of hell or freeze in the freeziest parts of Dante's hell. If she's into this shit and then she leaks it out later in a lawsuit because she doesn't get the money she's promised, that's kind of both their faults. Her for releasing and him for not paying his fucking bills. But if she's making all this shit up, she's a fucking evil human being as well. Because this is some seriously weird, freak level shit. This is some weird ass shit going on here. Fly your freak flag. As I said, do it. But, you know, if it gets to this point, there's some shit going on. A shift schedule. On or about March 6th, the second threesome between McMahon, John, and Grant occurred. In March 2021, WWE had not hired a replacement, so then they pull her back to the other apartment, the talent relations department. She goes there and she eventually becomes like the vice president of the office. So She again found herself completely in a completely undefined role, except for the understanding that she remained a sexual slave to be trafficked by McMahon within WWE. On March 12th, 2021, McMahon reminded her of the connection between her job and her role as a sexual object. Let's work hard and play hard too. On March 16th, Grant was directed to pick up a key to Johnny's hotel room and left himself and to serve herself to him as breakfast before the start of work. Constantly reinforced that she was to sexually perform for him and her new boss in and out of the office. Do you promise to make me proud, baby? Will you show him what a porno star you can be? Will you show off for me like never before? And on days when he's in town, I want him to fuck you every morning and later in the office too. McMahon also indicated that Grant should obey if John wanted to bring in yet more men. Another lengthy text message. Maybe he wants 2 other guys to join with you. Holy shit, you've told him you would do anything with him. So if he surprised you with 2 others, you would have no alternative than to take them on. OMG, the stories you could tell me then. It makes me want to come right now. By the way, I just thought of what I think is an excellent idea. Maybe you can hint that if he knows someone who can be discreet, it might be better if you and Johnny try him out first so he can be more comfortable before he's introduced to me. Actually, that makes total sense, doesn't it? It makes no sense. See, now there's one thing that's troubling in here. That if you're her and this is a legitimate argument that she's making here, it's a problem. If you're actually into this shit and it's just we didn't work it out, so I want to go public with it, it's also a problem. You've told him you would do anything. This is that old Bill Burr bit where he talks about how things don't read well in transcript. So if she was literally being controlled and forced into these situations and she was saying things to appease him and he's doing it and she's saying, "Oh, I'll do anything for you," that kind of thing, or it doesn't read the same when it's like, "No, don't, no, stop. Oh, you're bad. Stop. No." And then you get into court and they read the transcript. No, 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 stop. You're bad. No. It's like, hey, I didn't say, read it like I said it. I didn't say it like, it's like that Bill Burr bit. You say you do anything and you didn't mean it. Well, you said it. If you did mean that you would do anything, you don't have grounds to complain. That word, if it can be proven, that she told him that she would do anything, that can show consent, shows her she agreed to this. It's kind of hard to show you didn't really mean what you said. That's why false confessions are a bitch to get back. That's why you should have a cop a lawyer during any cop investigation, because they'll take something and give it a different meaning than you may have intended it. In April 2021, WWE's senior vice president of human resources was fired. Gee, why would that be fired? In the same month, McMahon informed Grant that she would be given the title of vice president of operations within the talent relations department. However, days later, he backtracked and said she would be a director of operations instead to avoid suspicion of a sudden promotion to vice president. Rogue Mama says, "I was out. It feels so good." Yeah, that was a long time ago. That was like 2.5 years ago. Ugh. Spend a year or two in the position, she'd be able to take her experience anywhere. She was hoping she could escape the situation with her finances and reputation intact. She just needed to survive until that point. She felt she just had to put up with this for an extra couple of years so she could survive financially. In April 2021, there's this big meeting. Ms. Grant, nevertheless, WWE Corporate Officer 2 presented Grant with paperwork detailing a base salary increase to $200,000 a year as director of operations. So this is just before everything goes to hell, by the way. Giving her a raise from $75,000 to $200,000. As soon as she began working for him directly, he starts forcibly touching, and overtly sexual behaviors become a daily part of life in the office. She was forced to serve herself as breakfast before work, things we've already talked about here. As per McMahon's instructions, Grant reported interactions back to McMahon, and the stories were used as a source of arousal. In her years of experience with McMahon, she knew requests to stop would be ignored. In her years of experience with McMahon, she knew her request to stop would be ignored at best, or used to destroy her career and reputation at worst. Grant was further left feeling isolated by colleagues and surveilled by the top-level employees within WWE. Her fate was entirely in the hands of WWE executives John and McMahon. He reminds her that a mistake could ruin her career. Those compliments will keep on coming, baby. Just wait and see. I totally understand and agree, RE being scared of communications and photos. Johnny gets drunk and sloppy and could easily make a mistake that could cost him his job and yours too. Verbal communication is way better to go. That said, have you and Johnny talked about breakfast tomorrow? We haven't discussed it at all. It's up in the air. Johnny complained about getting a new phone and it just arrived. I haven't set up mine to coordinate setting it up with IT because I needed him to assure me that he's erased everything he's ever saved. Truly, I regret that he ever got pics. It's not worth the stressing I'm feeling. I'm done with it. So now she's regretting that he got the pictures. Panic that someone else's mistake could cost Ms. Grant her livelihood left her feeling helpless and afraid. All right. I was in leave the company mode before she even got hired by the company. Yes, I just realized that they're doing this all on work phones. Can't fix stupid. No, the doggo's back. Yeah, well, did they move? Strawberry's over here in the sun. The sun is starting to come through this window, so Strawberry's piecing, chilling out in the warm sun. Right. Grant again told McMahon she did not want to engage in sexual encounters with John. She's been saying she doesn't want to engage in sexual encounters with everyone for about 2 years now. A little over 2 years. She hasn't wanted to engage in sexual encounters. Andrew Brankeloff, self-defense, with this $10 super chat. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate that. What we have here is a simple sex worker. I'm told there's no shame in sex work. Okay, cool. But if there's no shame, there's no lawsuit. Oh, you couldn't see me do this. And that's the deal. Like I said, if this is just a straight up deal, it's an understanding what your relationship is going to be in the company. You're going to be the old lady for me, and you're just going to be like the girl for the company, whatever. You just understand your role. We'll make you fit. We'll do it as long as we can get away with it. If that's it, that's it. No harm, no foul to anybody other than the shareholders of the company. If this is if she's not into this, she doesn't understand, she doesn't want to be the sex worker in the office, and all this happened as she alleges with all the horrible abuse and mind control and coercion, and then he's an evil beast that needs to rot in hell. I'm getting the feeling it's somewhere in the middle. That it wasn't what she thought she signed up for. She likes the benefits, she likes the money, she likes doing a little bit more. And then it comes down to the NDA. She's promised them $3 million. She only gets the mill. And now she's like, I want the other $2 million. So she was okay with it until she wasn't okay. Is kind of the vibes I'm getting. In which case, they're both scumbags. Haley Wolf, her mouth isn't saying no. Her lawyer is. I wonder who her friend was that first introduced them. It was a personal assistant of Vince McMahon. She had two of her friends were personal assistants. No, One of her friends was a personal assistant, and two of his personal assistants lived in her building. That's what it was. Right. Let's continue here. All right. Panic that someone else someone else's mistake could cost her job. Later feeling helpless and afraid. What if McMahon's mood shifted, leading her to message him expressions of loyalty, love, and submission as a coping mechanism, with the hope that he would protect her? She again tells McMahon she does not want to engage in encounters with John, adding, "I've left the hotel feeling bad about myself every time. And next time I do it, I'll leave feeling bad about myself too. And the time after that, I'll still feel bad about myself." McMahon responded the one-on-one encounters could cease, but he expected threesomes with John to continue. Well, she's been confined in an office in an abusive SA at WWE headquarters. There's a little bit of grape here, so yeah. The following morning, June 15th, Grant messaged McMahon that due to her work on an important project, she didn't want a threesome that week, and a threesome won't set me up for success, it'll knock me out. To avoid pushback from McMahon, Grant offered the following week instead. "I'm sorry. Let me check. Let's see. Threesome's not good this week, boss. Can we schedule the threesome for next week instead?" McMahon and John ignored her plea and brought her into John's office, forcibly touching and undressing her before forcing her to engage in a threesome on a conference table. She pled no, and please stop. McMahon responded with, "No means yes." Ms. Grant again told him to stop. Instead, McMahon licked his fingers and penetrated Miss Grant and said, "Take it, bitch." With each taking turns restraining her for the other, John then joined by forcibly shoving his tongue, then penis, into Ms. Grant's mouth. On June 23, McMahon directed Grant in the middle of a workday to meet him on a lower floor. Grant arrived. McMahon led her inside a private room, locked the door, forced himself on her over a massage table, then gave her a $15,000 in gift cards to Bloomingdale's and delivered to her office. On multiple other occasions, Grant worked under John, including phrasing and McMahon's promise that one-on-one encounters would end. And even after his wife moved across the country to join John, wait, what? He would call Ms. Grant to his office, lock the door, unzip his pants, and instruct Grant to perform oral sex. And while Ms. Grant worked under her, including after McMahon's promise. Okay, John's wife moved across the country to join them. All right, it's like McMahon's wife moved across the country to join John. I thought, okay, that was weird. All right, just poor writing. Through all this, Grant noticed that the less she sexually engaged with John, the less work she had, as John began belittling Grant in front of colleagues. Fearing for herself in future, Grant asked John whether he still supported her promotion to vice president. He deflected with an answer about considering all options and changed the topic. The extreme uncertainty and fear for her future exacerbated Grant's physical symptoms of illness, including gastrointestinal issues and vomiting, which continued to worsen over the remainder of her time with WWE. He used Grant as a sexual pawn to entice world-famous wrestling talent and to keep WWE superstar under contract with WWE. Oh, people, we're still not to the end here. Let's see if I caught up on everything. Yes, I've caught up on. I was hoping for a palate cleanser, but alas, I've read all of the super chats. All right, we'll just go back at it. At least get the stash out of the way here. Oh my! All right. WWE Superstar is a famous worldwide top talent of WWE and a large collective fan base that helps generate viewership and drives in-person attendance, all of which enrich WWE and McMahon. As we said at the beginning, it's pretty much been figured out by process of elimination. It's most likely Brock Lesnar we're talking about. So every time we say WWE Superstar, it's reportedly Brock Lesnar. Upon information and belief, McMahon began to recruit, I almost said his name, WWE superstar for a sexual encounter with Grant while she was still a coordinator in the legal department. They'd be their next playmate. WWE's, Grant engaged in unmerciful sex acts. This is a fantasy. Described his fantasy of seeing Ms. Grant engaged in unmerciful sexual acts with WWE superstar, during which he would rip her open. McMahon confided to Grant that he wanted to have the superstar under a new contract because they described him as the UFC heavyweight champion and they wanted him back in the WWE. Intended to return to other professional endeavors. They he directed Ms. Grant to create personalized sexual content for Superstar. McMahon shared photos with Superstar and then informed Grant that he likes what he sees. McMahon flew or caused Superstar to fly on a jet into a local airport to Connecticut, described Grant as a business dinner, for what McMahon described to Grant as a business dinner, as well as a sexual encounter with Ms. Grant in McMahon's condo. Upon information and belief, the dinner was to discuss Superstar's continued involvement with WWE. Prior to the business dinner with McMahon, Superstar made a brief visit to Grant's building. However, Superstar did not return to the building for a sexual encounter because he was too intoxicated to take back to the plane. That evening, McMahon recounted the story about his dinner with WWE Superstar to Grant and sought to salvage the night with a request that they role play a sexual encounter in which McMahon acted as if he were Superstar. McMahon was so physically rough with Grant during the encounter that Grant begged McMahon to stop numerous times, including loud cries, "Help, I'm serious, I'm scared." And he, among other things, penetrated her, fisted her, pulled her hair, pinned her, shoved her, and open palm slapped her. McMahon assaulted Ms. Grant. Assault caused Ms. Grant to break down weeping and curl into a fetal position with her arms pulled over to protect her face. McMahon alternated between slaps and shoves before admitting, "I'm really fucking up with you right now. I'm really fucking up with you right and left tonight, huh?" McMahon forbade Grant from leaving his condo all night unless she could verbally assure him that there wasn't a problem and everything between them was okay. Notably, however, he took no effort to check on her well-being after she left the condo. And SummerSlam comes up. McMahon texted Grant as a reminder that she was an enslaved object to him. "I want to drive you lower and lower, so low you might beg me to sell you." Yep. He continued to advertise a sexual encounter with Grant to Superstar during formal negotiations. "Here's what blank said after I told him that part of the deal was fucking you. Lol, that's your turf. She'll be ruined after me and leave your ass. Plus, after me, your tool won't fit in anymore." Yikes. So she'll do anything, promise she'll do anything. Grant tested McMahon's promise that Grant would do anything with a request that she send a video of herself urinating. So Superstar has a piss fetish. That's what we get out of this. Superstar has a piss fetish. Unable to recognize herself, Grant went numb and obeyed. Superstar informed Grant that if she had not complied with the request, Superstar would have lost any interest in her and then called her a bitch. The same month, Superstar expressed to Grant his desire to set a play date. However, a snowstorm changed Superstar's travel plans, and Grant ultimately used weather and COVID as an excuse to back out. Well, then the rails start to come off because Linda finds out. Ms. McMahon finds out. January 2022, McMahon abruptly distanced himself from Grant, saying he could not speak to her or be in the same room as her. However, on January 9th, he agreed to speak with her at his condo, of course. During the meeting, McMahon told Grant that his wife, Linda, had learned about a relationship with Grant and he was losing the condo and that she would divorce him. Back those rails up. He added, too, that the public divorce would make Ms. Grant a headline. Reportedly, to salvage his marriage and avoid both the negative publicity and other repercussions of divorce, McMahon wanted to ensure that Grant would remain silent about his personal misconduct in order to preserve his controlling interest in WWE. McMahon told Grant that if she left WWE and signed an NDA, he was confident Linda would not divorce him. He could remain in the condo and Grant would avoid reputational harm. McMahon instructed Grant that she should not go back to the office and immediately lessen her involvement in open work items. Grant expressed concern about both her name being mentioned in the media and loss of control of her image, especially as McMahon had shared content for close to 2 years and the ramifications of her career. McMahon suggested he would attempt to keep Ms. Grant's reputation intact, and the WWE corporate #1 would personally help Grant find another job. He instructed Grant not to share this news with anyone and suggested she offer health-related excuses for leaving WWE. Regarding the NDA, Grant asked, "Is this when Jerry sends the papers?" Jerry. Lawler? I hope not. That would be awkward. "Is this when Jerry sends the papers?" McMahon nodded and assured Grant that they would be in the driver's seat to iron out terms, but she would need an attorney to make things official, and approved of Ms. Grant asking celebrity doctor for no, I certainly hope to God it's not Jerry Lawler. That would be awful. That would be horrible. That would be awesome. It can't possibly be him. Yikes. Following these discussions, McMahon led Grant to his bedroom for another sexual encounter. Jerry McDivitt, his lawyer. Okay, I hope that's who they're talking about. Okay. It's not Jerry Lawler, it's Jerry McDivitt. Let's just put that rumor to rest right now. McDivitt's his old lawyer. Yes, Eric Folmes. McDivitt, his old lawyer. Great mind. Yep. It was his fixer, not just a lawyer. Ooh, some of you know the deep lore. Oh, I didn't know he was a fixer as well. Wow. All right. Well, he's fixing this apparently. Right. Well, so after all these things, he leads her to the bedroom for another sexual encounter. January 14th, 2022. Since granted to-do list for purposes of effectuating the NDA, such as retaining counsel. So she did have a lawyer when she signed the NDA, apparently. That doesn't bode well. I mean, NDAs are kind of, they're kind of weak by their nature, but she can't say I had no idea what it was about if she had a lawyer walking her through this. So that sort of takes away one of their, I didn't understand what I was being asked to sign. It kind of makes it hard to make that argument. So he tells her to retain counsel and also include an offer for one-on-one career coaching. McMahon suggested the list be drafted. Suggested the list had been drafted by Corporate Officer 2. Before Grant retained counsel, McMahon discussed the amount of money that would be exchanged for the NDA and settled on a lump sum of $3 million. $3 million hush money. And Island $2, late 30s, her first job, he broke up with her. Well, her parents were ailing and she spent her entire life paying, apparently, according to what I can glean from the background facts, she spent her entire adult life prior to working for McMahon, taking care of her elderly parents. They both died and she was bankrupted due to medical costs and had to start over. Thanks, Island, for the super chat. So good. Sorry, that was creepy. All right, so they agree. $3 million. $3 million to keep it quiet. And Grant told McMahon his initial offer of $1 million was not enough to compensate for the lost earning potential and the fact that she would be unable to continue the promised career trajectory of vice president, as well as failing to last as a director for a full year. So they agree $3 million. $3 million is good. Again, before she retained counsel, McMahon called Grant with an update and informed her that they insisted on installment payments due to cash flow purposes. Grant responded that this reasoning didn't make sense for a billionaire McMahon insisted it was not his idea. Yeah, when a billionaire tells you, "Oh, I can't afford to make a $3 million payment," I would call bullshit on that. On or about January 19th, 2022, Grant advised McMahon she'd contacted Celebrity Doctor about an attorney referral. Oh, Celebrity Doctor that she didn't want to have anything to do with. Great. On that physician's recommendation, upon McMahon's approval, she signed a retainer agreement with a lawyer later that day. Wait, she went to a lawyer that he had to approve of? What the shit's that? All right. January 24th, McMahon continued to engage in sexual text messages exchanges with Grant, including encourage her to send an explicit photo to Superstar. McMahon also requested Grant send him content she had sent to Superstar. So she, in the middle of this NDA to get her the fuck out of the company, the $3 million to pay her for all the horrible shit that happened and will happen to her, she's still sending nudes. She's still agreeing to all this shit. The negotiations of the NDA were brief, lasting only 8 days. Grant reminded McMahon that the NDA ought to address people who knew about their relationship, including but not limited to Officer Number 1, Officer Number 2, John, McMahon's personal assistant. Ms. Grant and her attorney sought to incorporate a list of individuals who had knowledge of the relationship into a Schedule A in the NDA. Ms. Grant requested revisions were flatly rejected by McMahon and WWE, who reverted to their original draft rather than incorporate any of her proposed changes, with the exception that, as of the date of execution, Grant would not speak of the relationship. By January 26th, McMahon articulated even more pressing need to get the NDA signed immediately, informing Grant that he was under a tight deadline to report pending or threatened legal action to the board of directors, specifically the audit committee. And the McMahon and his attorney could not do so unless Grant signed the NDA. They're concerned about the delay, further presses her to stop her attorney from any further wordsmithing. So yes, your attorney, he's just making it worse. If anybody tells you your attorney's making it worse, tell him to fuck off. And blame Grant's attorney for not understanding the urgency of the situation. It ain't urgent. See, if someone is urgent, if someone's like, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this, because it's their problem, that gives you the upper hand. It ain't, you're not in an urgent situation. You can delay all you damn well want. If someone else is like, we got to do this right now, use that as leverage to get more from them. Don't just go, oh, opponent, you're having anxiety and you need to get this done. Oh, okay, we'll get it done. Bad negotiating. Sounds like bad negotiating to me. His attorney had concerns about Grant's attorney and warned her that her counsel could not be trusted, which in turn caused Grant to question her trust in her personal attorney. So opponent dude's lawyer says, don't trust your lawyer. Why the fuck would he say that unless he was trying to trick you? Come on, people. So now because her opponent lawyer said, don't trust your lawyer, she doesn't trust her lawyer. Then she became so overwhelmed, she asked to simply give notice and without the need for a payment, even offering to sign a napkin or post it as a sign of goodwill. McMahon flatly rejected her desire to back out. Okay, so she wants to quit the company. She doesn't want a severance package. She'll write on a napkin that she's leaving the company. He said, no, you can't quit. Just 8 days after Ms. Grant hired an attorney, McMahon left Grant a lengthy audio message explaining why they needed to go through the NDA, pushing her to hurry up and sign the NDA and advising her that he would be double fucked if he did not, presumably referring to both his divorce and the board of directors. Chick, you were sitting on a ton of leverage and you let it go. You let this leverage go. There were unresolved edits that led to panicked phone calls, including an attorney confidentiality clause signatory line that Grant's counsel said he would never sign. Although the deadline to sign the NDA was pushed up from January 3rd to January 28th, McMahon continued pressing Grant with calls. So they keep pressing to get this NDA out of the way. They can sign the NDA. And in a state of mental defeat and fear from McMahon's threats, Ms. Grant succumbed to his unrelenting pressure and signed the NDA just before the deadline on January 28th. Well, February 4th, she gets $1 million, the first installment. Grant was wired $10,000 to cover her attorney's fees in connection with the NDA. Both wires were sent with the originator described as Vincent K. McMahon, CEO, WWF. And originator's address, hey, there's where he lives. Ms. Grant decided to give notice and put human resources on notice that she was leaving WWE. Signed the NDA. She continued to ask who had told Linda. She wasn't getting any answers. The NDA signed. McMahon, wearing only a white robe, met Ms. Grant in his condo to review outstanding business items. Jesus fucking Christ. You've been trafficked around for what, 3 years now? Almost 4? You've negotiated an NDA for $3 million. You want out of the company. The wife knows all this shit's going down, and you still go to his goddamn apartment to talk about unfinished business. All right, I'm not believing her shit anymore. How did this sound so reasonable to me the first time I read through this? Jesus Christ. As Grant was proceeding to the door to leave, he grabbed her arm before she exited and commanded her to do one last thing. And get on your knees. As Ms. Grant knelt on the hard floor, why are you doing this? Barely a few feet from the front door, McMahon opened his robe and ordered her to eat him. McMahon grabbed the back of Ms. Grant's head and slammed her face into his crotch a couple of times until she gagged and pushed him away, telling him to stop and that she couldn't breathe. McMahon responded that she wouldn't get away that easily and held her head as she forced himself back in her mouth until she had no air. Grant tried to push away, but he held her head firmly in place and loudly commanded her, "Look up," followed by, "Take it, bitch." They momentarily made eye contact before McMahon's force caused Ms. Grant's body to convulse and retch with tears streaming down her face. McMahon released his hold, closed his robe as she stood up. After leaving, Ms. Grant never saw McMahon again. McMahon called Grant to say, "Hey, you're probably never going to hear from me again. And if you need anything, contact the corporate officer 1 and 2. He said he can't focus on WrestleMania. His personal life is blown up. I can't talk to you anymore." But towards the end of the conversation, McMahon and Grant agreed to resume contact after WrestleMania. A gentleman always has a knee pillow handy. So look, it's like, I can't talk to you anymore. My life is in shambles. The wife knows. She wants out. She doesn't want to do this, but they agree to talk after WrestleMania. So again, she's told to send Superstar more explicit pictures. Superstar reaches out to Grant. It indicates McMahon's continued control. Ms. Grant receives recalls from McMahon's attorney advising her there had been an anonymous email about the relationship between Grant and McMahon and John. Later in June, stories are published regarding the matter. Further, despite assurances from McMahon that he would cover her medical care and the costs associated with their tax liability for the $1 million payment, McMahon has refused to cover these costs. McMahon continued to pay for Grant's medical care until April 15, 2022, when it abruptly ceased. So we went through all the gifts that she got. You know, the surgeries, the Nordstrom's gift card, the box of chocolates, the $20,000 for surgery, the $15,000 gift certificate, the $5,000 gift certificate to the spa, the 2022 BMW 430xi, all these other things she got. And then now we outline that she was a victim in all this. She was groomed and coerced by McMahon and John, and the WWE stood by and facilitated efforts to keep Grant employed to ensure McMahon's continued sexual exploitation. It destroyed her mental state and her attempts to avoid the unfortunate circumstances she was found in. Grant sent a message to resident manager stating she was miserable. I don't say it to Vince, but grateful as I am for my job and my salary, I am miserable, mismanaged all the time. They admit they don't know what to do with me. Nobody gives a fuck when I was harassed and retaliated against to the point my reputation was questioned and my work was taken away. Grant was frequently referred to as McMahon's bitch. On multiple occasions, she objected to that. she's part of McMahon's fantasy texts. McMahon controlled the WWE during Grant's employment, and the company knew but did nothing about it. That's pretty much all we need to read. The headline says it all. He was in control of the company, therefore the company knew or should have known, and they did nothing to stop it. They encouraged it, so therefore they should be liable for all of this. He goes through all the allegations there. Mention who's still employed, who's left the company, who's been fired and whatnot. So upon information and belief, numerous other independent contractors, employees, as well as executives or board members within the WWE knew of or suspected McMahon's misconduct involving Ms. Grant, including being shown explicit photos of Ms. Grant by McMahon. McMahon directed a single attorney to negotiate the NDA on behalf of WWE and McMahon, both parties to the agreement. His abuse of Grant did not come as a surprise to anyone at WWE because he had faced numerous prior accusations of sexual misconduct. Including 1994, former WWE referee Rita Chatterton alleged that McMahon had raped her after luring her into a limousine to discuss her career. She recounted it for New York Magazine. I was forced to have oral sex with Vince McMahon. When I couldn't complete his desires, he got really angry, started ripping off my jeans, pulled me on top of him, and told me again that if I wanted a $500,000 a year contract, then I had to satisfy him. He could make me or break me, and if I didn't satisfy him, I was blackballed, and that was it. I was done. February 2006, Palm Beach Post reported that McMahon had shown nude pictures of himself to a tanning booth attendant at a Tanzabar in Boca Raton, Florida, and subsequently made unwelcome advances and finally cornered her in a tanning booth and groped her. 2011, a former spa manager at a California resort accused McMahon of assault at the resort. So then goes through and lists some more times WWE should have known, the rumors, the pictures. They condoned it. Then they go on to attack the NDA. As detailed herein, the NDA was signed by Ms. Grant, McMahon, WWE through coercive tactics. It violates the Speak Out Act and is thus enforceable. The NDA is also void and unenforceable because the confidentiality term, a core term, is overly broad on its face. But she had legal counsel when she went into this. She had a lawyer that reviewed this and they signed off on it. They signed this document. So to say, oh wow, this is overly broad. You talk to a lawyer and they go, it looks good to me. Let's sign it. And then you later go back to claim it's overly broad. It's really hard to overcome that, but you read it and had no objection to it at the time and you signed off on it. It's kind of hard to go back and argue. As written, it would prevent Ms. Grant from saying anything to anyone about the WWE and her employment. Well, then don't sign it. Let alone exposing McMahon and others to sexual assaults. The NDA that McMahon has used to silence other women may be equally unenforceable. Does he? This thing, these NDAs are like non-compete contracts where you agree not to work for anybody in a related field in that area for a period of 2, 3, 5 years, whatever. They're enforceable until they aren't. They're very, very fact specific. It's hard to describe them. Like prenups are the same way. They're strong documents, but they're also weak documents at the same time. And it's strange and it's kind of difficult to understand, but a lot of times these agreements are binding and strong because nobody attacks them. It's like, when you go to a movie theater, you enter any parking lot, you get the parking ticket that tells you on the back that we're not liable for any damages or anything that happens to your car while you're in the parking lot. Those are actually pretty damn worthless. Those adhesion contracts, they're absolutely worthless, but nobody ever argues with it. Well, it says that on the back, so it must be true. And that's what they're hoping you say. That's what they're hoping you say. Go, oh my God, I already signed away my rights and said I wouldn't sue anybody for anything. So I guess I can't sue anybody for anything. And you walk away. Anyway, back to the NDA. Ms. Grant was coerced into signing it merely 8 days after she first spoke to an attorney. I have negotiated deals for $60, $70, $100 million vessels in less than 8 days. So the day. I mean, it's a few pages. It's a few pieces of paper. 8 days is nothing. I mean, it's I mean, I don't mean it's not nothing. It's too short. I mean, it's meaningless. It has no meaning. You can negotiate an NDA in an hour. Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking. They're strong documents, but they can also be weak. I mean, and a lot of times people don't fight the prenups, the NDAs, the non-compete clauses, the other adhesion contracts because they just don't think they can because you're told how strong they are. But I mean, prenups. I mean, like, all right, we don't want to get too far off the rails, but yeah, when you're reading a contract, what I like to do, if it's only a few pages long, I'll have, especially if another lawyer, and I always tell them to get another lawyer involved. But assuming there's another lawyer involved, what I like to have done is each paragraph at of the contract, I like to have our side sign it, lawyer and client, and the other side, lawyer and their client. You sign each paragraph saying you've read it. You sign each paragraph. Everybody's initial. You initial each paragraph. You initial at the bottom of the page. At the bottom of each page, you initial. And what they'll do in Korea, where they have like this, they have like the personal stamps, the red ink stamps. All right, I think I can show this here because I happen to have a demonstrative. This is useless. I'm not. There's no real point in showing this, but I'll do it anyway. So like they'll take two pieces of paper. Let's say this is two pieces of paper, and they'll fold it over like this. So they'll fold one piece of paper in half. So imagine like this paper continues down. They'll fold it up like this, so it looks like this, and then they'll stamp like right on the crease. So that not only have they signed and stamped initial every paragraph at the bottom of the page, they'll also sign on a fold. And then everybody signs at the bottom. And one of the last paragraphs you'll have is that by signing this document, I acknowledge that I have had each and every paragraph explained to me by my retained counsel. I understand the meaning and consequences of every paragraph signed, et cetera, and you sign off on that. You've got to do things like that to take any contract and try to make it a little more meaningful. Jeff is 100% right in process, and it must all be video recorded. That helps too. Video recording never hurts. So anyhow, these are the things that you have to think about. But anywho, so she's complaining that she didn't have all this shit going on. She did, she was coerced into doing this. Also, there should be a paragraph in there saying, I'm signing. I acknowledge I'm of sound mind, sound body health. I've had sufficient time to review and discuss the terms of this agreement with my retained counsel. I'm doing this fully to my own volition, without any coercion or anything like that. Have one of those paragraphs in there too. Don't forget that paragraph. That's an important paragraph. This occurred because of relentless pressure, including implicit and explicit threats by McMahon. The NDA didn't even include basic terms she was promised by McMahon. Well, don't sign the fucking document. Don't sign the fucking document. He's the one in a hurry to sign it, not you. He's the one that's going to fucking jail if he lies to the board and to the auditors, not you. Yeah, your name gets dragged through the mud, but he's the one that's going to lose every goddamn thing he's got. His wife's going to get half, the government's going to get the rest of the half, and he's going to take it up the ass in prison, in federal pound you in the ass prison. You're under no pressure to sign it. He is. Regardless, even if it were enforceable, McMahon had breached the core terms. He had paid. See, this is where McMahon fucked up. All right. Thank you for being here, Branka. Thank you so much, Andrew. Have a great evening. Nice to have you here. Sleep well. We're going to wrap this up pretty soon myself. Probably in the next 15, 20 minutes, we're going to wrap this up because we've been going 48 minutes longer than I hoped. Law of Self-Defense, everybody. Go check out Andrew Branka, Law of Self-Defense. Like everything he's done, subscribe. Force of Nature, Andrew Branka. So here's where he screwed up. He promised $3 million and he didn't pay it. I'm assuming that the $3 million was mentioned in the NDA. He breached the contract. If he said he would pay and he didn't. If the terms are set out in the agreement and he didn't follow those terms, he's in breach of contract. That gives her big ammunition to nullify the NDA, if that's the way it works out. Regardless if it was enforceable, McMahon has breached a core term of the NDA. They're alleging the breach. He paid $1 million, but failed to make any further payments, including the installment of $500,000 that was to be paid within 10 days of February 1st, 2023, under Section VB of the agreement, Section 5B. See, this is the thing. They breach it once, and if they've breached it before or given any other indication that they're going to continue to breach, that's a repudiatory breach or repudiatory breach, where you can pretty much say, okay, they're not. He's given indications he's not going to pay any of this. And that gives you even more leverage here. So they only paid $1 million of the $3 million. He missed a $500,000 payment over a year. Well, I guess about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. Furthermore, circumstances have changed in that Ms. Grant's name has now been publicly released through no fault of her own, which impacts employment prospects and has led to further trauma and humiliation. And it talks about her life, what's gone on after the trauma she's had, the fear, the PTSD, her lost income. Oh yeah, at some point they did raise her from 75 to 80,000. I forgot to read that part. So yeah, she lost income, 80,000 a year in income when she left, but she left. She didn't get fired. She left anyway. The severe restrictions have created a wedge in all of her relationships, isolated her from her as her family's passed away. She does not have them to lean on for support. She can't lean on the community because of the NDA's restrictions. She's experienced weight loss, insomnia, rashes, flashbacks to her exploitation, nightmares, panic attacks, and depression. Grant will go days without brushing her teeth, taking a shower, or washing her clothes. On many days, she doesn't leave her bed. She'll prove at trial that she will need lifelong treatment because of the pain and suffering inflicted on her by defendants. Here's the causes of action. Everything the plaintiff takes into consideration paragraphs 1 through 270 as if it's stated in the cause of action. The NDA is attached. Let's see, the Speak Out Act. The Speak Out Act defines a sexual assault dispute as a dispute involving a non-consensual sexual act or sexual contact. As such terms are defined in Section 2246 of Title 18, or similar to the tribal or state law, including when a victim lacks capacity to consent. A sexual harassment dispute as a dispute relating to a conduct that is alleged to constitute sexual harassment under the applicable federal, tribal, or state law. The Speak Out Act provides that with respect to a sexual assault dispute or sexual harassment dispute, no non-disclosure clause or non-disparagement clause agreed to before the dispute arises shall be judicially enforceable in instances in which conduct is alleged to have violated federal, tribal, or state law. So she's saying that this NDA was based on the sexual harassment, sexual assault, whatever, and the NDA is there to make it go away, which would be a violation of the law. Whereas we can only presume that McMahon is going to come back with, no, this was a consensual thing, and only now she's bringing this up, which it wasn't SA, and so therefore her argument regarding the illegality and invalidity of the NDA is horseshit. We assume that's what he's going to argue. The allegations herein include sexual harassment and sexual disputes as defined in the Speak Out Act. The NDA seeks to bar the claims brought herein because the claims themselves constitute the dispute as of the date of this complaint filing. Then, pursuant to the Speak Out Act, the core terms of the NDA, and thus the NDA itself, is judicially unenforceable, and plaintiff is entitled to declaratory judgment. It'll depend on what that NDA says. What does the NDA say? We don't know. So she wants the NDA voided under common law. So she wants to be able to talk about it. It's invalid. It's invalid for a bunch of reasons. She entered into the contract under duress. We're talking about. She never held a paying job office in her life due to caretaking of her parents. She was up against McMahon and WWE titans of the wrestling and entertainment world. She's just poor. It's David and Goliath. It's David and Goliath. We got to take care of David. From big mean evil Goliath. Only one example, McMahon left an extensive voice memo shortly after the NDA was signed, wherein he emphasized his public nature of the public nature of the WWE and consequences that could result if the NDA was not signed before the audit committee convened. Again, not her problem. She shouldn't have done it. The NDA is an adhesion contract, which we were just talking about, like those things that are they're as useless as the things on the back of the tickets in the parking garage. No, they're not. They're really not. No matter what this guy says, they're not adhesion contracts. There was no meaningful choice for Ms. Grant. Yeah, there was. You blow up his world or you take the money and go away. You have a choice. I don't agree with that. Fourth, the NDA is substantially unconscionable and it's clearly one-sided. Clearly one-sided. Don't talk about me and you take $3 million. I'm not seeing how that's really particularly one-sided. That doesn't sound too one-sided to me. In any event, they're arguing the NDA has been breached. He paid the mill. He missed the $500,000 payment. They're saying, see, and to me, that's the strongest argument for the NDA being set aside. It's simply he was supposed to pay. He didn't. He breached the contract. It's done. It's over. I'm assuming there's a clause in there that say if either party breaches the NDA, then it can be terminated. I'm assuming that's in there. I don't know, but if it is, that to me seems to be the strongest argument. And we've got other violations that are asserted. The victim sexual trafficking laws. He's pimping her out, bringing people in, flying people in to enjoy her, making her do things, setting up appointments with superstar, things like that. They're all aware of the job. Okay. They're participating in illegal. The WWE is participating in illegal ventures. There's negligence. The WWE was negligence. They knew what was happening. They were negligent. They knew what was happening. They okay, here we are, right? Notwithstanding his responsibilities and duties, WWE knew or recklessly disregarded that it was the practice of McMahon and John to entice, recruit, force, or coerce women into sexual acts. It's happened before her. It happened at least 3 times they mentioned before her. They knew it was happening this time, and they still didn't take any action to correct the behavior, so therefore I was damaged. That's what she's arguing. They allowed the conduct to continue. They failed to warn her, et cetera, et cetera. They had a duty of care. It breached. This is negligence in a nutshell right here. These are the 3 factors you need to prove negligence. They owed a duty of care to protect her. It breached that duty to protect her, and the breach caused her to suffer damages. Those are the 3 pillars of negligence. When you're suing someone for negligence, you have to prove that they owed a duty of care to you. You have to prove they breached that duty, and you have to prove that you suffered damages because of that breach. Whew. And then civil battery, all the things, help, stop, no, take it, bitch, no, yes means no means yes, all these things. That's civil battery. Civil battery against John, who did this, who participated in these events. The intentional or negligent infliction of emotional distress against McMahon and WWE. They both intentionally or negligently inflicted emotional distress on there, where they go through all the arguments that we've read through in the last 270 paragraphs. It's severe, long-lasting, and permanent. Intentional or negligent infliction of emotional distress against John and WWE. The same thing they just argued against him, with the facts specific to him. Wherefore, here's what she wants out of all this. Out of all this stuff we've been talking about for the last 3 hours, here's what she wants out of this. We got down to the nitty-gritty right here. WWE is vicariously liable for the acts of John as described above. So vicarious liability is when you're liable for your employee's actions or the actions of another person under your direction. That's why if you're a Domino's pizza delivery driver, you're driving your delivery car, you do something stupid and negligent, and you kill somebody, they can sue you and they can sue your boss, Domino's Pizza, because you were their employee and you did something stupid. So the company can be held liable for employees' behavior. Wherefore, plaintiff respectfully requests Declaratory judgment that the NDA is void and unenforceable and does not bar any of plaintiff's claims against defendants McMahon and W. So she wants the NDA to be voided so that she can talk about it and she can sue the shit out of McMahon. 2, she wants a judgment for damages, reasonable attorney's fees, costs, and punitive damages against defendant. It's very, very common. Most of the time, they won't specify how much they want in the initial filing. That'll come later when they'll start putting a dollar amount to their claims. And 3, such other and further relief as the court deems just and proper. So she wants costs and fees and damages, and she wants the NDA voided. Holy shit, people. We're at the end of the, hey doggo, what's up? We're at the end of the McMahon saga. Whew. And we have what looks like it might be a final super chat from Matt Freehart. Vince had the Kiss My Ass Club storyline to Caleb humiliate the face wrestlers. And it was all involving his ass was the weird thing. It was all involving his ass. I remember a couple of the incidents, but literally when I just searched for a picture to use for a thumbnail and I used like McMahon shirtless weird pose, and half of my screen was not the same ass picture, but several ass pictures. It was, I don't remember there being that many, but there were. You gotta, I think he had a thing. He liked his ass being out there, which kind of supports what she's saying. You gotta get the kayfabe out there. You gotta get the kayfabe storyline to humiliate the lawyers. I mean, the lawyers. They're the new wrestlers. Who's been in wrestling 30 plus years? Oh, what kind of guitar is that back there? That is that's a National Resonator nickel plated tricone. That is a gorgeous, gorgeous instrument. That probably is that is my pride and joy guitar. That's my baby. Okay. Wow, that's rough getting through. Just out of curiosity, I am going to check my monetization to see what color it is. Oh, Potentially Criminal's reviewing this. Right, we're going to go over to Potentially Criminal Sean when we're done here, so that you all can read this as well. We'll get Sean's take on this. How does that sound? We'll head on over to Potentially Criminal Sean here. Give me a minute to set this up. Content. Hey, we've had a few subscribers since we started. Thank you so much, peeps, if that's any of you. And while I'm doing this, I just want to remind you one last time to go down there and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you have subscribed, please just double check to make sure you are still subscribed. And if you haven't, please do. I would be deeply honored if you would do me that pleasure, do me that honor of subscribing. All right, where are we here? Potentially Criminal. There you are, brother. Boom. All right, we are locked and loaded to go on over to him. We shall do that. Whew. All right, we ended up with 285 people here. We lost about 150 of you along the way. 316 likes. Thank you so much. Let's see which sex toy you guys think what name you think is best for a sex toy. What should McMahon name his sex toy? Yeah, it was a thing. 21% of you said Kurt's Angle. 22% of you said Big John Stud. 27% of you said Cactus Jack, and 30% of you said Greg the Hammer Valentine. There you go. 3 hours. Mods, thank you so much for being here. Thank you. People in chat, Vice Squad chat, you are the best chat. You're the greatest chat. We love you, chat. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the support. Oh yeah, I was gonna check to see where the demonetization happened. That's right. Sorry, I forgot about that. I got sidetracked into Sean. I have to backtrack. Chupa chupa, chupacabra, chupacabra. YouTube studio content. Yeah. add suitable restrictions. Yeah. I wonder at what point that happened. But yes, we are officially restricted for ad suitability. So thank you so much for the support you guys gave today. Deeply, deeply appreciated. Thank you so much for being here. What's going to happen? Here's what we got coming up to this at the same time tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow night, we're going to have a special edition of The Unexplained, where we're going to have Danny on direct and Flux, the usual Three Musketeers for The Unexplained. But we're having a special guest who is going to tell us about the fact that she has suffered from a generational Masonic curse, and she has multiple paranormal experiences on the regular. We're going to be interviewing her and talking to her and hearing her story. That'll be, I guess, what, about 20 hours from now. So join us for that. Next Monday, we will be doing the Alex Murdoch hearing about Becky Hill and her actions. And depending on how that goes, we'll make plans for Tuesday and Wednesday. Right now, Wednesday, we're scheduled to have Jules on from the Maya Kowalski trial to tell her side of the story. And that's kind of what we've got on the block here for the next little while. Everybody, thank you so much. Let's go on over. Tell potentially criminal Sean it's a Vices raid, and give him a special thanks and a like and a shout out and all that other stuff. Subscribe to him. Everybody, take care. Law Raxane, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you enjoy your legal vices. Peace. Oot.